Assalamualaikum and welcome. I bid to the judges, teachers, guests, participants, and everyone present. Welcome to the live streaming of the 9th Fully Residential Schools International Symposium 2021. What a blessing it is to have our event on such a lovely day. How are you faring on this fine morning, Alia?
I feel great, Hannah, and I'm so excited to watch all these presentations today, and I hope the audience feels the same.
Me too, I'm super elated. Ladies and gentlemen, the Fully Residential Schools International Symposium was initiated in 2011 and was organized by the Ministry of Education under the Fully Residential Schools Management Division in partnership with the National Commission for UNESCO Malaysia. Through a systemic research and creation of video presentations on cutting-edge issues, we hope to instill the culture of critical thinking, decision-making, as well as creativity amongst the youth. In line with this event's objectives, our aim is to nurture towering personalities as well as leadership qualities for our leaders of tomorrow. You are all cordially invited to watch the presentations on the sub-theme Global Economic Consequences of the COVID-19 Pandemic, and later have a chance to pose any questions to the presenters.
But first, I would like to inform all of you that there will be an online quiz at the end of the first session. The online quiz will be open until tomorrow, 3rd October at 10 a.m. We will be having different sets of questions according to the tracks, so be sure to be on the lookout. As planned for today, we will have 16 teams overall to present their research videos with us. However, in this session, we are going to look at the presentations from the first 5 teams. Before we continue, I would like to introduce our esteemed judges for today. The Chief Judge is Puan Farah Mardi Ahmad, the Director of English Language Training Center Malaysia. Our second judge is Ms. Salmia Hani binti Sidi from Sekolah Menengah Sains Hulu Selangor. Our third and final judge is Mr. Muhammad Anwar bin Ibrahim from College Tunku Krisha. And we, Nuril Alia Carmila, and my co-moderator, Nurhana Muhammad Muazzam, are both from Sekolah Seri Puteri. Now, allow me to read the rules. Firstly, the presentation must focus on the sub-theme assigned to the team. In this track, the sub-theme is Global Economic Consequences of the COVID-19 Pandemic. Next, the duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. And lastly, a question and answer session will be conducted after each presentation.
I'm sure everyone is eager to start the symposium for today. So, without further ado, let's give it up to the first team from the school Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching to present their presentation entitled Teenagers' Engagement in Revitalizing the Current Economy. Here with us today, we are so privileged to have 2 amazing presenters. They are Angelina Anna Andrew Ragay and Cheyenne Anna Michael. Please welcome.
Every second is critical and in terms of saving a patient's life. Every second counts.
Ever since the COVID-19
It looks like we're facing a few technical difficulties. I hope everyone has their understandings. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the technical glitches. But don't worry, as you can always watch the full videos on FRSIS.
Every second is critical, and in terms of saving the patient's life, every second counts.
Ever since the COVID-19 virus has spread around the world, the global economy had to be put on hold as many were losing their jobs and service sectors were heavily impacted too. The global economic consequences of this pandemic can even be seen in our country, Malaysia. Our citizens had to experience bankruptcy and had to close their business doors. Sadly, some teenagers are still unaware and doesn't even care about this situation.
But don't worry about it, people. This is why we came up with an idea to create a project called Teenagers' Engagement in Revitalizing the Economy. So in my part today, I will explain the objective of our project. Our first project's objective is to create better understanding about the current economical issue to teenagers. Next, we would like to engage teenagers to help out our economy with their own ideas and our suggested ideas. This would allow us to produce more efficient and knowledgeable future leaders. This is because earlier exposure to the reality of economic hardship. We would also like them to be aware and understand people's struggle in sustaining their business during the lockdown. And last but not least, we would like to form teenagers that can help our countries in this economy revitalization.
Why is it that it's very important for teenagers to learn about economy? Well, firstly, you need to know that teenagers are one of the consumers in the world of economy, which means that teenagers can actually contribute to the economy. We can buy products from small businesses, so we support these local businesses and enterprises to help our economy to grow. Next, teenagers should learn about economy because it actually helps you to widen your choices of career. This is because economical study isn't only about the study of finance and business. It actually requires you to have a high problem-solving skills and your ability to analyze data and statistics through graph and charts. That's why it's important to learn about economy, because some career path requires you to have knowledge in banking, finance, and insurance. Next, teenagers can actually impact the industries. That's why it's important to have basic knowledge in economy. So then, we as a teenager can promote local businesses, or if we have the chance, we can also promote bigger company. So this is why teenagers can act as a marketing agent to boost their sales and hopefully spread their business. And last but not least, teenagers should learn about economy so they can be better prepared for the future. When we learn about economy at a young age, we will have better understanding about taxing and how the market behaves. When we learn about how the market behaves, we will gain an insight on what to improve on our spending habits. So then, we will not repeat the same mistakes when buying products, and we will be able to spend more wisely in the future.
In order to achieve our objectives, we first hypothesized that teenagers in Malaysia are not fully aware of the current economy. Then, we conducted a questionnaire via Google Form, which received 0.02% respondents of the total teenager population in Malaysia. We then analyzed their responses and concluded that the hypothesis is accepted. Based on this, we proceeded in creating few awareness activities. First, we uploaded weekly in our Instagram feed at FRSIS 21, our Facebook page, and our own International Leap Ed website. We posted a number of posts, mostly were highlighting the impacts of COVID-19 to the welfare of our citizens and towards our country's economy. We even had the opportunity to interview a young florist who owns his shop and a food bank and was affected by the pandemic. His story was then shared in our feed too. We also organized an event which involved students from Peninsular Malaysia and Borneo, Malaysia. The event is to engage students in revitalizing the economy with their own ideas and the ideas by other schools through creative presentations. from this event, we were met with 5 big ideas from the school teams. First, we should like, comment, and suggest ways of improving their businesses. For example, creating attractive packaging and eye-catching posters to attract more customers. Secondly, we can create training programs by IT-savvy teens that can teach small businesses owners on how to use social media platforms and how to make websites to promote their products during the lockdown. This can be done via online sessions through YouTube, Facebook, and etc. Thirdly, don't ask for discounts from the seller, especially during these trying times. This will help small businesses from losing their profits. Next, we can start raising funds by encouraging young influencers to stream a charity event through gaming and ask for donations to relieve the struggles of small businesses. Last but not least, we should always seek knowledge and study diligently. When we grow old enough to work, businesses and companies will hire us. With this, the industry's productivity will increase, then our profits, and finally, our economy. The main finding of this project is that a network of teenagers has been established through social media with the same aspirations that came up with big ideas to help revitalize the economy once more. And those who have participated in our event have found it really useful as they have learned newer economical issues and terms. Their understanding of the current economy situation has also increased tremendously through our awareness activities, either in the event or in our social medias. They even took immediate action and started promoting small local businesses that they know or found in social media. Not only has our project impacted teenagers, but it has also impacted small local businesses that we have promoted in our respective social medias. Even though the changes we contribute into the economy are small, we still have to stay proud as we are doing our best as teenagers to revitalize the economy.
In conclusion, we have successfully created and increased the awareness about our current economy among teenagers. Through our initiatives, we together with our participants have came up with 5 big ideas that were mentioned to you earlier. I believe we have helped in molding more efficient and knowledgeable future leaders. We all know that teenagers are the future of our country. So by creating and increasing awareness, we have made an early exposure about economy's hardships for our future leaders.
Even though we might not be at where we want to be right now, but at the same time, we need to remember that we are also not at where we were used to be. It's not about how much I improve, it's about did I improve? So we need to remember that an improvement is still an improvement, no matter how big or small it is.
Thank you, Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching. Such an intriguing presentation that you've got there. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has finally come for the question and answer session. Now, I would like to invite our viewers with us today to ask any questions that you'd like. Feel free to leave them in the chat box. Welcome, judges, back to the studio. So first, we have the first question from the user Zahira Muzamir that goes, which sectors of the economy are likely to recover the fastest and why? Can the presenters please answer the question?
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Zahira Muzamir. So, which sector of the economy are likely to recover fastest? It will be the health and social sector. It is because even post-COVID, you would still have to rely on these materials because this virus will still be here and we will need to suffice to these materials provided by them. So that is why I'll say that post-COVID, this sector will recover faster because we still need them even after. So thank you for the question.
Thank you for the feedback. Are there any more questions from the audience?
Next up,
It
we have a
seems that there are
question
no more
from
questions.
user
Oh,
Ainin Sofia Shasha Abdul Aziz that goes, do you think our government give the best solution to overcome this economic crisis? Any thoughts from our presenters?
Thank you, Miss Ainin Sophia, for the question. I think that our government is giving the best solution to overcome this economic crisis. For example, last year there were at least 12 help from the government, 12 initiatives from the government to help the citizens. And one of them was to pay 600 ringgit to workers that had to leave without pay. So I do think that the government is trying to give the best solution to overcome this economic crisis. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, presenters, for answering the user question.
any more questions from the viewers today?
Okay. Hi, it's Anwar here. All right. So I have a question for you. All right. So in your presentation, okay. So in order for you to create an awareness, and also to create that kind of awareness about the economy, so you use a lot of social media, right? Okay. So what if they don't have any social media account? What will be your plan about it? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Mr. Muhammad Anwar. So during this COVID situation, we as our team, we tried our best to reach those who we can reach, those who have social medias and internet access. Those who doesn't have, we are unfortunately unable because that is our limit to reach those who we can. But if post-COVID, we have the chance, we will try to send our information that we gathered, our posters, and the awareness we try to spread to them in, maybe we print them out and send it to them. Yeah. So we are very limited, so we can't actually help them at the moment. But if we have the chance, we will. So thank you very much for the question.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you to the presenter for answering the judges' questions. Would the judges give any more comments or questions?
All right, good morning everyone, and congratulations, Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching. I just have one question. As a teenager, how do you feel, and in your opinion, how do you attract teenagers to be concerned about today's economy, especially during the pandemic?
Thank you, Ms. Farah, for the question. In my opinion, I think that it's best to approach the teenager as a friend rather than someone who is trying to spread awareness, because we know that teenagers nowadays are kind of shy. So instead of approaching them as someone to spread awareness, why not we approach them as a friend so that they will feel more comfortable and they will be able to do their part in this community for the economy. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much
much.
to the presenter for such a lengthy explanation. Well, that concludes all the questions. With that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you once again, Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching, and the presenters, Angelina and Cheyenne, for such an interesting presentation and lengthy explanations.
Hannah, do you know that we have a lot of international participation this year?
Wow, I did not know that.
Well, for your information, this year's Fully Residential School International Symposium has received participation from countries such as India, Thailand, Turkey, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Philippines. This year, a total of 105 international participants have come together in this auspicious event. In addition, the total number of participants is around 470 students comprising all 70 fully residential schools nationwide. To name a few, there are participants from Sekolah Tuanku Abdul Rahman, Sekolah Menengah Sains Miri, and many others. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm very excited to hear the explanations and look at the videos that were prepared from the participants from all over the world. I'm sure we can get a lot of input, and I think that the video presentations will be very beneficial for all of us here today.
Well, me too. Now, carrying on with today's symposium, let's give a warm welcome to our next presenters from Sekolah Berasama Penuh Integrasi Temerloh. And let us continue with watching the video presentation entitled COVID-19, Global Economic Consequences. Here with us in the studio are Afan Nizamuddin Muhammad Karudin and Amni Shafia Ahmad Muzaffar. Please welcome. It seems that we have a bit of technical difficulties. I hope we have your understanding.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello. We are the representatives of INSOF who would like to explain about COVID-19 and its consequences to global economics. First, I would like to introduce to you all about what is COVID-19. Coronavirus or COVID-19 first appeared in China at the end of 2019. All over the world, we were facing many issues. One of them were financial complications. This means many people were being unable to pay debt over the short and long term, and it causes financial management and limits purchasing power. Next, we will explain about a government decision to maintain current level of production even though the energy prices are falling down is tremendously difficult. Next, we will explain about the occurrence of financial market volatility. It is a statistically measure of the dispersion of returns for a given security or market index that has been decreased. We will move to the next slide, which will explain about the business industry, which is most affected and least affected.
The point that we wanted to highlight here are the most and least affected business industries. As the result for our research, we found that airlines, casinos and gaming, leisure facilities, auto part and equipment, oil and gasoline are the most affected business industries, while property and casualty insurance, healthcare REITs, multi-line insurance, life and health insurance, and industrial REITs are categorized as least affected business industries. The median PD for airlines as of March 1, 2020 is 9.84%, and for casinos and gaming, 6.41%, for leisure and facilities, 5.64%, auto parts and equipment, 8.57%, and lastly, for oil and gas drilling, 9.1%. As we can see here, the percentage for every business rose at the end of the month. Next is the least affected business industries. Most of them is obviously a health-related business. From the timetable, you can see that the percentage didn't give that much different from 1 March to 31st March.
Alright, now I will continue with industry that most affected ongoing impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Based on the data in the previous slide, airline industry show up for the most affected industry. There are several consequences of the decline of the airline industry. The first one is revenue streams became paralyzed. As the operator of aircraft had to be shut down for a while, aircraft staff such as pilots and flight attendants were unemployed for a very long time. Subsequently, labor crews were ordered to take leave from their duties. At aircraft, they just worked as baggage handlers, wheelchair attendants, cabin cleaners, and skycaps. Many are paid minimum wage, and now they are having lack of sources of income. Moreover, I would like to notify you that there are also factors that influencing the decline of airline industry. Firstly, airports were closed. Airlines faced serious predicament when no one booked for flight tickets due to a government order to stop the spread of COVID-19 through air travel. Secondly, deliveries of new aircraft were delayed. The world's commercial transport planes are stranded when most countries close their borders or impose strict quarantine at the height of the crisis. Thirdly, aircraft production was also suspended. Airline halted production at most of factories as plane makers worked to reduce the risk of coronavirus transmission on the assembly line. Therefore, government has taken their action to solve all these problems. They give flexibility to the company to operate in stages and adhere to SOP. People can also apply for various existing and initiative outlined in the economic stimulus package announced by the government. Meanwhile, industry that is affected is industrial REIT. REIT stands for a Real Estate Investment Trust. It is a company that owns income-producing real estate. REITs have many types of commercial real estate, such as office and apartment buildings to warehouses, hospitals, shopping centers, hotels, and commercial forests. Some REITs are involved in real estate financing. For your attention, factor that influencing the deterioration of industrial REIT is the launch of the project was delayed. This happened because construction operation had to be stopped in accordance with SOPs, and for sure they suffered losses because the project could not be completed on target and is slowing down investment returns. Nevertheless, government will compensate investors who suffer financial losses in certain circumstances.
The negative impacts of COVID-19 pandemic include workers laid off, sales plummeted, salaries are deducted, and unpaid salary. Thus, the conclusions include COVID-19 continues to have strong impact on the economy. We must put forth relentless efforts to fight this pandemic and try our best to live well. Our government is doing its best to overcome this COVID-19 pandemic by focusing on the health of the people as well as stabilizing the economy. COVID-19 is a loss that involves a huge economic downturn to the country, and it can be seen when many people are involved with financial problems. Despite this COVID-19 crisis that makes people struggle in life, making people light-hearted even with a little conscience also could help them from time to time. Therefore, we can create a small charity fund for the people in need around the residential area as well as the village area. In addition, we have to support businesses that are just starting so that they have the spirit to pursue new income.
Thank you, Sekolah Bersama Penuh Integrasi Temerloh. That was a very informative presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the question and answer session. I would like to invite the audience to ask questions for the presenters to answer. Welcome back, judges, to the studio. We have our first question from user Aini Sofia Shasha Abdul Aziz that goes, do you think our government give the best solution to overcome this economic crisis? Can our presenters kindly answer the question?
Thank you for the question, Aini Sofia Shasha. Well, I think the government gave the best solution to overcome this economic crisis. This has been proven because government actions has taken an effect to some of the industries. For example, the airline industry during the pandemic, their profit has been downfalling. And after the government has taken action, for example, only allowing those who have 2 doses of vaccine and have no symptoms allowed, it has changed the airlines industry's profit to be restabilized again. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. Do we have any more questions from the audience?
Here comes another question from the user Fatika Zahra that goes, why do you think the health business industries are the least affected? What are our presenters' thoughts on this question? Will the presenters kindly answer?
Thank you, Faika Zara, for the question. We think the health business industries are the least affected is because even though during the COVID-19 pandemic and after the COVID-19 pandemic, the health industries have taken a lot of effort to keep people healthy. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, they have much more work, and the government has provided them with more medical care and money to provide their services to those who are affected by COVID-19 or for those who are not healthy. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering the viewer's question.
Is there any more question from the audience? It seems like there are no more questions from the audience. Will our judges kindly make a comment or even ask question for our presenters?
I have a question. Okay, in your slide just now, you said the government compensates in certain circumstances. Can you explain what are the certain circumstances they are talking about? That's a question.
Will our presenters kindly answer the judges' question?
Thank you, Madam Salmiamani, for the question. The government compensates for some things, such as for businesses that are affected by COVID-19 and has been experiencing economic downturn for their businesses, such as small businesses and mediocre businesses. And the government has taken action by donating some money and promoting their businesses to others. That's all.
Thank you for answering. Is there any more question from our judges? How about you, Ms. Farah?
Okay, I have a question. All right, so in your presentation, okay, so you stressed on the big companies like Airline and so on. All right, so do you think the support given by the government is enough to support the local or the small shops or retailer in order for them to survive from bankruptcy? Do you get what I mean?
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Anwar, for the question. No, I think the government action is not enough to provide assistance to the small businesses and local businesses. This is because they too need support from the teenagers or citizens to promote their businesses and by supporting and by buying their products. So the government and citizens must do their part to make sure that their businesses will not be affected with the economic downfall. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that concludes all the questions. With that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you, Sekolah Bersama Penuh Integrasi Temerloh, and the presenters Afwan Nizamuddin and Amni Shafia for such a stimulating presentation. Hannah, I'm wondering, what are these symposium objectives? Do you happen to know that?
Well, Alia, you asked the right person. The vision for Fully Residential Schools International Symposium is to create world-class leaders. Consequently, FRSIS has always been a platform to develop effective leaders who are not only aware of the current issues, but are also able to apply their knowledge in solving problems effectively. With the participation of students from all around the world, we are always aiming to create a significant impact in molding global leaders with towering personalities and improving leadership skills. How's that, Alia?
Wow, this symposium really have a great objective, and I sure learned a lot today, and I hope the audience learned a lot too.
Thank you. We will now move on with Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Gopeng to present their research video entitled Asia versus COVID-19. Can we survive? Here with us, we have Nur Ain Batrisha Rosdi and Muhammad Shamil Farhan Jupri as the presenters for this presentation. Please welcome. It seems that the presenters are not here yet. While we wait, how about I tell you a little bit more about FRSIS? The Fully Residential Schools International Symposium is closely based around the idea of producing effective leaders who are aware of current issues. Not only that, The sub-themes are also related to Sustainable Development Goals outlined by the United Nations. There are 17 SDGs in total, but this track specifically focuses on the 8th SDG, on decent work and economic growth. Well, it seems that the presenters are finally here in the studio. Once again, I would like to re-invite Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Goping with their research video entitled Asia versus COVID-19, Can We Survive? Please welcome.
Nowhere to tell exactly what the economic damage from the global COVID-19 pandemic will actually be.
There is widespread agreement among the economists that the pandemic will have severe negative implications as well as positive impacts on the global economy.
Hi, I am Nurain Batrisha binti Rosti.
And I am Muhammad Syamil Farhan bin Jupri. We are the young economists from Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Goping. In this video, we will unveil to you the affected sectors due to COVID-19 in Asia and how badly are they affected.
Asia versus COVID-19, can we survive? For our broadcast today, we are going to share with you our investigation about the global economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic based on our online research.
In order to narrow down the scope of our study, Asia was chosen to represent the world's current economic situation, as it is a region consists of rich, developing, and low-income countries. All the information and facts gathered for this research are derived from Asian countries.
And we will even share with you some suggestions to make Asian economy to get back on track. Now, let's talk about our fascinating findings. The sector has received a massive hit due to the unhealthy economic condition. Tourism. You know what? This sector contributes more than 10% of the gross domestic product, GDP, in Maldives and Thailand. But then, due to the shutdown of the sector, we can see that the revenue of the high dependence countries on tourism will face a difficulty on surviving and gaining financial support. In Asia, tourism-dependent economies are working to finance a broad range of policy measures to soften the plummeting of revenue in tourism on households and businesses. However, we still have to wait for a positive result because the battle of fighting the coronavirus is far from over.
When the pandemic started to hit Asia, the agriculture field has received a huge blow. The impact of COVID-19 has brought some unprecedented challenges. The virus threatens to affect United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are to fight world hunger and poverty. The pandemic poses a serious threat to food security and livelihoods in the poorest countries, where agriculture sectors are more labor-intensive and there is less capacity to withstand a macroeconomic shock. However, mechanization of agriculture sector can be a key role in supporting countries to respond to the crisis.
Our next focus is on the apparel and textile industry. We can see a really big economic consequence, especially to Turkey, one of the largest suppliers of apparel and textile, which is the highly dependent on to maintain their economy. This industry constitutes up to 40% of the industrial production, also comprises to 10% of the country's GDP. The COVID-19 crisis led to a lesser demand for ready-made apparels, thus resulting to the closure of many apparel industries in the country. As a result, this causes an enormous downturn of the GDP in Turkey as well as the globals.
Shippings and ports are a major revenue for Asia, as it represents a doorway to global economy. In several countries, shipping is a lifeline, linking local communities to the global markets and sustaining their economic development. Asia remains highly dependent on the overseas market and closely connect to the worldwide economy through global value chain. The economic downturn from the pandemic is likely to strongly impact Asia region. Decreased exports of primary goods due to reduced demand from major importing countries could further weaken the shipping services of Asia region.
While there are few sectors struggling to survive, some of them have expanded to a new boundary. Our analysis of the economic situation in Asia show that there are some sectors that gain unanticipated earnings because of this deadly pandemic. Surprisingly enough, according to the Statista company, it is stated that the revenue of the e-commerce sector in Asia had increased 22.4% in 2020 than the previous year. Despite the global recession that's happening today, we can see that there was an acceleration of the digital transformation since social distancing and restriction became our new norm.
Many businesses and consumers started to provide online goods and services. This is when e-commerce became the next great change happened in our life, hasn't because of our coronavirus experience. Community quarantines have limited our trips to the stores, which most of them are closed after all. We pay with our credit cards or electronic wallet and the goods are delivered to our doorstep. This scenario really boosts e-commerce activities.
Another sector which is on the rise is the health sector, particularly in China. When the pandemic started to blow up in the city of Wuhan, China has produced a lot of health equipment such as personal protective equipment, PPEs, and clinical masks in a giant massive scale. There were endless demands for these items from all over the world, making China as the fortunate one in this misfortune.
In this desperate hour of global financial crisis, many governments use different approaches to stabilize their economy once more. Some of them choose to tighten their belts rather than spending, and the results show a really slow economic recovery. But for some countries like South Korea, spending is exactly what they have been doing to boost their economy during this pandemic.
IGOP Young Economy suggests each country to start paying attention to the local brands production, which may help in sustaining the nation's economic sectors. Diversify the local products and assist even the smallest businesses. If the local product consumptions increase, this may help in the economic growth, thus saving the nation from more horrific economic disaster.
Early of 2021, the COVID-19 vaccines have been granted to people all around the world. The vaccine helps helps to avoid the widespread of coronavirus and give protection to our body against the pathogen. The economic activities can be reopened and the movement restriction can gradually be lifted.
Now, we can see improvements on the global economy, which is projected to increase 6% this year and 4.9% in 2022.
We hope that the data provided are very beneficial and informative to all of you out there.
We surely will.
Wow! Thank you, Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Gopeng, for such a wonderful presentation. I'm sure we're all astounded by the great video. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue on with the question and answer session. Any sort of inquiries are welcomed in the chat box. Ask away. First up, there's a question from the user Raja N that goes, what is the best business for the ASEAN countries to collaborate during this pandemic and why? Can the presenters please answer this user's question?
I'll answer that question. So, thank you to Ms. Moderators. A very good morning I bid to the judges, all present participants, and as well as the audience. So, back to the question. What is the business for the ASEAN countries to collaborate during this pandemic? So, for me, the best businesses is the e-commerce industries, because we know that nowadays people are doing everything via internet, right? So, in order to collab few industries with other country, so e-commerce we need a really strong e-commerce industry in order to do the collaboration with the other countries. Thank you.
That was such a great response. Thank you to the presenter. Any more questions from the audience?
We have our next question from user Anas Hazim that goes, what are the methods used in analyzing the data? Any thoughts from our presenters?
I will answer the question. The method that we use to analyze our data, we collect abundance of data from internet, and we use the data that we collect, and we use the method of cross we use the method of selection, and so that we could find the result if the data that we find is it relevant or not. Thank you.
Thank you, presenters, for clearing the air.
Okay, Assalamualaikum everyone. Both presenters, I have a question for you. Okay, so basically in your presentation, okay, so ASEAN countries have been chosen because we have a mixture of rich country, developing country, and also low income country. So my question is, how sure are you that the rich country will not discriminate the low income country? Or how do you think they are going to work together? Thank you.
I'll answer that question. So back to the questions. I think surely that there will be a great collaboration between rich, middle, and low-income countries, because we still have organization like Commonwealth, Olympic, which is we all have great relationship between the other countries. So I think there is no any big deal or any matter for them to collab each other and have a good relationship. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That was such a great answer. Will the other judges please give any comments or pose any inquiries?
Okay, congratulations. I would like to just ask one question. As I mentioned in the video, Korea has been using the consumers' buying power to boost their economy. So, what has the government of Korea provided to the consumers in order to ensure that this buying power is actually, how to say it, effective in boosting the economy? So perhaps you can provide the response to that. Thank you.
So thank you for the questions. So I think Korea has do a lot of things to boost their economy as they're spending much right during this pandemic. So they provide a lot of facilities, accommodations, and some education to the people, and also some contribution to maintain their their domestic economy. Thank you.
Thank you to the presenter for the answer. Unfortunately, the 5 minutes is up. That concludes all the questions, and with that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you once again, Sekolah Berasrama Penuh Integrasi Gopeng and the presenters, Nur Ain Batisha Rosdi and Muhammad Syamil Farhan Jupri for such a provoking presentation.
While waiting for the next school, here is a tad bit about this year's fully residential school international symposium. The theme for this year's symposium is COVID-19, Gains and Losses. There are 6 sub-themes under it. The sub-themes are COVID-19, a paradigm shift in teaching and learning, global economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, COVID-19, the rise in digital revolution, healthcare innovation and mental health anxiety management during the pandemic, climate crisis and change during the pandemic, the promise of a better tomorrow, and lastly, social impacts of COVID-19 on a nation's well-being. Wow, that's such a lovely sub-themes, isn't it, Hannah?
Yep, I agree. It is very well suited for the current situation that we are all in.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to the next school from Sekolah Tuanku Abdul Rahman to present their research video entitled COVID-19 Impact on Economy. We are so privileged to have Emir Zarfan Adli Shahriman and Muhammad Amir Akil Rosmahadi. Oh, it seems that our presenters are not in the studio yet. To fill the void, I would like to tell you a bit about this year's FRSIS. Well, during this pandemic, the sudden rise of the COVID-19 pandemic surely has disrupted billions of lives and impacted the global economy. Following the 8th Sustainable Development Goals, its aim is to promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. We are encouraging students to think outside the box and create possible solutions while resonating and feeling empathy for other people currently struggling economically in the midst of this pandemic. Hannah, what do you think about that?
Well, for me, it is very important for us to be aware of other people that are facing a lot of problems during this pandemic. And I think by this symposium, we will create awareness, and more people will be aware, and it will be very beneficial for them.
Wow, that's such a powerful insight. Since our presenters are not here yet, I would like to tell you a bit about the first FRSIS. Just to let you know, the first ever FRSIS was hosted by Sekolah Tun Fatimah in 2011 with the theme Students, a Catalyst of Change for a Better Tomorrow. Ever since its first inception in 2011, it has been held for a total of 8 times, making this year's FRSIS being the ninth one held. And actually, this is the first time it's held online. Well, it seems that our presenters are finally here. I would like to re-invite our presenters from Sekolah Tuanku Abdul Rahman to present their research videos entitled COVID-19, Impact on Economy.
COVID-19 Impact on Economy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, my name is Ahmed Zarfan, and today joined by me is Haris Aiman, Rizarif, and Amar Akil. So as we know, the economy is a major factor in the development of a country. In 2020, a pandemic has caused the world economy to shatter, especially in the industrial and tourism sector. For more information about the industrial sector, let's hear from my friend Haris Aiman.
Thank you, Imam Zafran, for the introduction just now. My name is Haris Aiman bin Abdul Malik, and I would like to take you a little bit deeper towards the industrial sector. First of all, let me tell you what is the issue. There's 3 main issues that's happening. First of all, the gross domestic product or GDP of ASEAN country on 2020 2019 suffered negative growth. This negative growth occurred as coronavirus pandemic hit this country. There are some industrial activity that suffer or facing a major issue right now. That's first, manufacturing, second, production, and third one is assembly. Next, I would like to tell you what is the solution we would like to propose to overcome this problem. That's first, we will be using robots in the manufacturing sector. Second, we will deduct the salary of the worker by 20%. Third one, we want to limit the number of workers going to the factory at the same time. And the fourth one is, we will ensure the hygiene of the workspace is in top notch. First, let me tell you what is the factor that support the idea of use of robot in the manufacturing sector. There's 2 main factors. That's first, we want to increase the quality, and second one, we want to increase the productivity. As we know, robots doesn't have health. It can work despite the pandemic because it can't get infected by the coronavirus. That means that is the best replacement during this coronavirus era. Second one, we want to deduct the salary of the worker by 20%. There's also 2 main factors that support the idea. First of all, the money will be used to cover the rent, etc. And we want to avoid the expulsion of workers. As you know, during this COVID-19 era, the expulsion of workers is really common because of financial problem. We don't want that to happen. So, what we are doing is we decrease the salary of the worker so that there's no financial problem and the worker can still keep their job. Third one, we will be limiting the number of workers going to the factory at the same time because the worker that work at the factory will be observing the quality of the product produced by robots. And the main factor is they will take over if there's any problem that urge them to take over. Let me give you an example. There's first, there's a blackout and robots can work because robot need electricity. So what do? We'll be the workers that happen to be at the factory at the time will be taking over the work of the robot, so that the production can still ongoing despite the problem. And the fourth one or last one is we want to ensure the hygiene of the workspace is in top notch, because we want to decrease the possibility of any health issue to occur. The worker will be sanitized before entering and leaving the factory, because during this pandemic era, we all know that the hygiene is a very crucial matter. Because if we have a bad hygiene, we will be most likely to be infected by the COVID-19. And somehow, if you get infected, the factory will be closed and the manufacturing sector cannot keep going. So that's all from me. Next up, I would like to pass to my friend Rizal Ustazah to talk about the tourism sector.
The tourism industry plays a major role for the economy and contributes about 8.8 trillion per year, according to the World Economic Forum (WEF), which is based in Geneva, Switzerland. As we all know, since the pandemic struck the world during the early of 2020, the tourism industry suffers and lost about an estimation of $4 trillion due to pandemic aftermath and its prolonged effect on other sectors closely linked to it as well. When the tourism industry suffers, a lot of problems will make an appearance. Millions of jobs in the economy sector is at risk due to money being lost, and companies are unable to pay their workers' salary, so they have no option but to terminate them. And close borders and suppressing travelers, many countries have implemented restrictions on population movement to slow down the spread of severe acute syndrome coronavirus to prevent health system from becoming overwhelmed. Some have even instituted full or partial lockdowns. Eventually, many ethereal ethnic heritage enactments will suffer significant consequences due to being suspended. For example, your favorite travel destination is closed due to pandemic, and when they are closed, there will be no business. They eventually gain no more money, and what happens when they gain no money? They go bankrupt. But don't you worry, there are a few solutions to these situations. First off, we have domestic travel, the tip and give policy, and last but not least, digital tourism. So, for domestic travel, we'll be insisting domestic travel, especially for those who are already fully vaccinated. This way, the likelihood of getting COVID-19 is pretty minimum. And for those who are optioning for traveling, please follow all state and local recommendations and requirements, including wearing your mask and practice social distancing at all times. Succeeding to our next solution, we have the tip and give policy. You could consider a no-contact drop-off delivery from local restaurants and businesses, and don't forget to tip well. Or you could even purchase gift vouchers or gift cards for future visits when social distancing isn't the modus operandi anymore. For instance, you would like to visit a concert but it is not currently available due to coronavirus, so why won't you buy one and use it in the near future? And finally, we have digital tourism. Digital tourism allows travelers to recreate all the experiences and feelings of real-world exploration, with a small difference that each epic voyage takes place in a digital dimension. So digital tourism is such a blessing in disguise. To give you an idea, with digital tourism, you can experience the world through virtual tours, webcams and live streams. For instance, in Malaysia, we have the Zoo Negara live tour. You can still feel the eerie feeling of spotting the tigers while still being in your bed. You can even read articles and literature on travel destinations that you would like to visit after the pandemic ends. Sooner or later, you could subscribe to a travel-themed subscription box. A brief explanation of what is a subscription box is, you usually would get monthly gift box, or I should say surprises box. It could be beauty products, souvenirs, or even pet food sometimes. But that is not the most shocking part. The most shocking part is, usually, a subscription box usually profit a margin of 40% to 60%. This way, you can splurge for yourself while simultaneously help to boost the economy. That's all from me. Now I would like to pass to the next speaker, Ahmad Akil.
In conclusion, there can be no doubt that COVID-19 has given a crucial and radical impact on the industrial and tourism sectors. Such concepts like deducting salary, limiting workers, digital tours, and webcams potentially would be vulgar or risky, I would say. Nevertheless, this concept would play an enormous role in recuperating the economy after the coronavirus aftermath.
Wow! Thank you, Sekolah Tuanku Abdul Rahman, for such a wonderful presentation. I am sure we are all astounded by the great research presentation. Now, let us proceed with the question and answer session. If any of the audience have any sort of inquiries, you can kindly put it in the chat box. We have our first question from user Noradila Sulimai that goes, if the government now has loosened the economy industries SOP, is Malaysian economy getting better now? Can our presenters kindly answer the question?
I'll answer that question. Thank you, Nur Adila Suleiman, for the question. If the government now has loosened the economic industry SOP, is Malaysian economy getting better? So the economy is slowly getting better because the industrial sector has just been opened by the government. So I think the economy will recover better now.
Thank you for your crystal clear explanation. Is there any more question from the audience?
Next, we have a question from the user Raja Ann that goes, do you think robots are more efficient than humans, and can you give justification? What are our presenters' thoughts?
I think I'll answer that question. I think that robots, we can say they are more efficient than human, but they have more cons. Like they need to use electricity, and yes, they have some pros, and like we can say that robots they can't get affected by the coronavirus, and as in for humans, they will be able to get affected by the coronavirus. So we can say that robots are more efficient than human, but robots are more efficient than humans.
Thank you for the response.
Is there any more question from the audience? We have our next question from user Anas Hazim that goes, the use of robots and salary reduction will lead to risk in employment. So how do you propose the affected countries maintain their people's well-being? Can the presenters clear the air?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Yes, there will be a reduction in our employee of the salary. I wouldn't say this solution that we came out can be vulgar or risky, I would say. But nevertheless, this concept can play an enormous role in this situation. That is my answer.
Thank you for your thoughtful insight. Is there any comments or questions from the judges?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. In your opinion, is the future of e-commerce will prosper after the pandemic? Is the future of e-commerce will prosper after the pandemic? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, I think they can really do a lot of things even after the pandemic itself, because of the pandemic itself, people always buy food also using e-commerce. So I think they can be really good after the pandemic itself also.
Thank you for your feedback. I'm sorry to be the one stopping this fun question and answer session, but unfortunately the 5 minute is up. Thank you to Sekolah Tuanku Abdul Rahman and the presenters for such a clear explanation.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next school, let me tell you a little bit about this year's FRSIS. The theme for this year is COVID-19, Gains and Losses. There are 6 sub-themes under it, and the sub-themes are COVID-19, a paradigm shift in teaching and learning, global economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, COVID-19, the rise in digital revolution, healthcare innovations, and mental health anxiety management during the pandemic, climate crisis and change during the pandemic, the promise of a better tomorrow, and lastly, social impacts of COVID-19 on a nation's well-being. Alia, may I ask you, what is the sub-theme that is most interesting to you? The reason can be anything.
For me, the most exciting is global economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, because we can learn a lot about our country economic, not only our country actually the world's economic, and how is the pandemic affecting the economy all around the world. And that's my reason why.
Thank you for answering. Well, talking about the economy all around the world, let's hear a bit about the economy from Indonesia. Last but not least, let's welcome on board our last group from Sekolah Menengah Atas Negeri 1 Purworejo with their research video entitled Self-Disruption Among the Traditional Traders to Face the Long Exposure of the COVID-19 Pandemic. We are so privileged to have Priscilla Liliani Puji Pajento and Wahidanya Inayakut as the presenters. Please welcome.
The COVID-19 pandemic ravages the economic condition of the people, especially for traditional traders. They have to be creative to survive. Some of them have succeeded in disrupting themselves from traditional traders into online traders. Mr. Wahyudi Nur Abadi is one of the examples. He is able to sell 15 to 20 archery a day through online market. Another person who succeeded using online shop is Mr. Ahmad. He sells soto using WhatsApp.
Hello guys, how are you? I hope you are happy and healthy. We are from SDG8, Purworejo, Indonesia. We took the title Self-Disruption Among the Traditional Traders to Face the Long Exposure of the COVID-19 Pandemic. We chose this title in order to convey our concern in the global economic situation. Our team consists of Jusnia Salma Nugraheni and me, Priscilla Liliani Putri Prajanto, Wahidania Inayakut, and Ulinikma Syafaah. Since December 2019, the COVID-19 outbreak has spread all over the world. We are required to stay at home so that the chain of the COVID-19 pandemic can be stopped. This has significant impact on the global economy, especially for the traditional traders. That's why our team did a simple research to find a way out of these problems.
The COVID-19 pandemic has significant impact on global economy. According to ILO, due to the current quarantine measures, it affected 2.7 billion workers. It means there are a lot of unemployment, which is only 81%, and there's only 19% active worker in the world. In the previous 81% of unemployment person consists of high educated person and low educated person, which are mostly the traditional traders. We found that these traditional traders face two main problems. First, they are not computer and information technology literate. Second, They are not familiar with running online trading and marketplace.
Based on the problem and its causes, our team provides a solution to the problem. The solution is disruption to traditional trading to face the long exposure of the COVID-19 pandemic. Disruption means radical change to an existing industry or market due to technological innovation. Online trading has an advantage to support the government program in preventing the spreading of COVID-19 virus, as we know that most of traditional traders are low educated and digitally illiterate. So, we as millennial generation that custom to use digital technology must be agent of change in online trading. We can familiarize the online trading system to our surrounding by social association. For example, there is a small village in Purworejo led by a young village leader named Mr. Dwinganto. He is creative, innovative, and masters digital technology well. He creates a social association in which he trains the villagers to be digital literate. He also creates an application which is used to provide job for his people. The application consists of online market named Toko Desaku, online public transportation named Mojo. By using the application, the villagers can get more money, so their income increases. Mr. Wahyudi, a ojol driver, said that he could earn money minimally about 200,000 rupiahs a day. In a month, he could get 6 million rupiahs. It's many more than his income when he has not joined Mojo. Another person who gets benefit from joining the application is Mr. Wahyudinur Abadi. He thought that he's able to sell 15 to 20 archery a day. He promotes his product in Toko Desaku. However, there are some people who are not as lucky as Mr. Wahyudi. They have no opportunity to use Ngojol and Toko Desaku. Therefore, they use the social media like WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram to sell their product. One of the people who sell their product using WhatsApp is Mr. Ahmad. He used to sell food in school canteen. Because of the pandemic, the school canteen is closed, so he sells the food online using WhatsApp. Even he can get more money.
From the above explanation, it's clear that COVID-19 pandemic caused a lot of people unemployment. To overcome this problem, as millennials, we should first be the agent of change in online trading to have traditional traders selling goods. Second, be creative by utilizing digital technology to increase the traditional traders' income. Third, be innovative in finding smart ideas to face the economic problem caused by the pandemic.
That's all from my team. Thank you for attention.
Wow! Thank you Sekolah Menengah Atas Negeri 1 Purworejo for such an informative and beneficial presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now start the question and answer session. Any sort of inquiries are welcomed in the chat box. Ask away. First up, a question from the user, Aimin Sofia Shasha Abdul Aziz. She asks, do you think reopening the economic sectors is relevant looking back to the daily cases? Can the presenters kindly answer the user's question?
Thank you for the question. I'm Priscilla. I will answer the question. Do you think reopening the economic sector is relevant looking back to the daily cases? So, I think reopening the economic sector is relevant because the economic of the citizens of some countries to need to pursue again so the economic growth can be due in the country. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for the response. Now, are there any more questions from the viewers today?
Next up, we have a question from user Anas Hazim that goes, what are the methods used in analyzing the data? Any thoughts from our presenters?
Okay, thank you for the question. I'm Waidania, and I'm going to answer the question. The method that used in analyzing the data is descriptive, qualitative, and quantitative. The qualitative research focused on the process, the obstacle, and the self-destruction of the traditional traders. And the quantitative study is focused on the conducted by analyzing the shift of traditional traders to the online trading. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, presenters, for clearing the air.
Would the audience want to ask any more questions for the presenters to answer? It looks like there aren't. So can we please ask the judges to give any comments or pose any inquiries to our presenters today?
I have a question. You talked about being creative in promoting ideas online. Can you just name us what other ways to be creative in promoting online products? Thank you. That's a question.
Thank you for the question. I'm Priscilla. I will answer the question. Okay, so the social media is the one of the most uninterested application to to promote the product. So yeah, we give the best solution if the social media cannot use by the low educated person or for the old people, we can make the association to gather all the low educated people and to all people to use social media in this association. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for clearing the air. Would the other judges want to ask any other questions or give comments?
All right. Okay. So basically, I would like to congratulate, both presenters. You did great. Okay, and then I would like to comment a bit about the presentation. What I like the most is example given uh, proactive action taken by the politician, by providing support towards the people. So I think that one is a very good idea. So well done, well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the comment, Judge. Would the Chief Judge would like to give any more comments or questions while we have more time remaining?
All right. From me, I just would like to know, how do you encourage the millennials in Indonesia to help the local traders in going through the pandemic? How do you encourage the millennials in Indonesia to support the local traders in going through the pandemic?
Okay, thanks for the question. Let me answer the question. So, we have to approach the millennials with social media because
Pardon for
millennials
my
are interested.
intrusion, but unfortunately the 5 minutes is up. I'm very sorry.
Oh, thank you. I'm
With
sorry.
that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you once again, Sekolah Menengah Atas Negeri 1 Purworejo, and the presenters Priscilla Liliani Putri Prazanto and Wahidanya Inayakut for such a stimulating video and amazing answers to the questions. Thank you so much.
Now, the curtains are starting to close for our session today. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind all of you that there will be an online quiz posted in the chat box at the end of this session. For your information, the Google form for the quiz is only accessible from 2 October 2021 at 10 a.m. until tomorrow, 3 October 2021 at 10 a.m. An e-certificate will be sent to your emails if you obtain 80% correct answer. You may also go to individual schools' videos in case you miss any during the presentations. So all the best! Thank you once again to all the judges, teachers, participants, and audience present for your undivided attention in this session. We really appreciate you all for taking the time out to be with us here today. Now, I'm sure all of you are starting to feel a bit tired and worn out. Fret not, as we will be having a short break before our next session. Be sure to come back at 10:30 a.m. as our next session will resume then.
Wait, before that, don't forget to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Alia, do you enjoy watching cultural performance to pass the time?
I do actually, Hannah.
Well then, you're in for a treat. While waiting for the next session, let us enjoy a cultural performance compilation. The cultural performance will comprise performances from all the 7 participating countries. Let's enjoy the unique presentations of each country. See you after the break.
Today we are going to preview some amazing Thai cultures in our school. So let's move on to the first one. Is the Thai boxing, or we call it Muay Thai in Thai language. So in our school we have physical education lessons that teach us about Muay Thai. The main purpose of the lessons is to teach us how to protect ourselves using Muay Thai moves such as kicking, punching, and elbowing, and to learn some move sets called Wai Kru, which are the moves used in a famous ceremony for showing respect to Muay Thai teachers. And this is another pictures about the Muay Thai performance in our school.
Next, we're going to talk about the Loi Krathong Festival in Emirates. Because in our school, we also have some interesting cultural events in Loi Krathong Festival during November. In this festival, many students in our school would wear traditional Thai clothes, and of course, there would be a lot of krathongs. As you can see in these pictures, the thing that the students are holding is what we call krathongs in Thai. Krathongs are the decorated slices of banana tree trunks with some fashion leaves and candles. In Thai beliefs, we would later float the krathong in the body of water in order to thank the goddess of water, which we call Pama Kongka in Thai. And furthermore, we also have various range of delicacies and live music played by students and teachers in this festival too.
And another cultural performance in Emirates, Thai dance or Lam Thai in Thai language, is a combination of graceful body movements in Thai traditional music like In Thai Chai Ngam, Dwang Chan Khwan Pha. Dancers also wear elaborate Thai silk costumes with colorful art and patterns. Thai dance performed by a group of people that
You are muted.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. I wish to the honorable judges, teachers, guests, participants, and all watching today. You are now watching the live streaming of the 9th Online Fully Residential Schools International Symposium 2021. Welcome back to our audience before and greetings to our new viewers. We are delighted to continue with our second session. Hannah, aren't you excited to continue with more interesting presentations?
Yes, I'm over the moon. But before that though, we would like to inform all of you that there was an online quiz that was posted at the end of the first session. The online quiz will be open until tomorrow, 3rd October at 10 a.m. Just so you know, we have different sets of questions according to the tracks. Be sure to answer it as you will be getting an e-certificate if you manage to answer 80% correctly. As planned for today, we will have 16 teams overall to present their research videos with us. In this session, we are going to look at the presentations from the next 6 teams. Before we proceed any further, I would like to reintroduce our esteemed judges for today. The Chief Judge is Puan Farah Mardi Amai. The Chief Judge is Puan Farah Mardi Aman, the Director of English Language Training Center Malaysia. The second judge is Ms. Salmia Hani binti Sidik from Sekolah Menengah Sains Hulu Selangor. And the third and final judge is Mr. Muhammad Anwar bin Ibrahim from College Tunku Kursiah. And we, Nurhana Muhammad Muazzam and Nurul Alia Carmila Muhammad Redzwan, my co-moderator, are both from Sekolah Seri Puteri. Now, allow me to read the rules. Firstly, the presentation must focus on the sub-theme assigned to the team. In this track, the sub-theme is Global Economic Consequences of the COVID-19 Pandemic. Next, the duration of the presentation should not be more than 10 minutes. Lastly, a question and answer session will be conducted after each presentation.
Now, I'm sure we are all eager to start the presentation. Well, to start the ball rolling, I would like to invite the first team from Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Munawir to proceed with the research presentations entitled Economic Downturn of Major Industries Due to the COVID-19 Pandemic. We are so privileged to have Nabil Aklan Muhammad Faisal and Muhammad Khatib Abdul Huda as the presenters. Please welcome.
Wuhan, China, the starting point for the infamous coronavirus pandemic. Given the circumstances, the viruses of the past, namely the H1N1 pandemic in 2009 and the SARS outbreak in 2004, pales in comparison to what we are facing today. From stay-at-home policies to the closing off of international borders, important political changes has been taken in order to curb the number of infections globally. The very nature of change isn't necessarily black or white, rather an unclear mix of grey. The changes in daily behavior have caused shockwaves across the economical sector in a number of contentious ways. For this research, we are going to explore two major industries. which are tourism and aviation. Using GDP as a benchmark, we can roughly portray how these two major industries contribute to global economy. What is GDP, you ask? GDP stands for Gross Domestic Products. It is the value of all final goods and services produced by a country within a year. Looking at the chart, travel and tourism contributes around 10% on global GDP. In hindsight, 10% doesn't seem like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, we are talking about 8.9 trillion US dollars. And in the economical world, every dollar counts. Now, let's take an in-depth look in tourism and aviation.
I'm gonna go straight to the point right here. Based on the graph, it is obviously visible down there on how many percent drop on travelers traveling to a certain continent. But we can see that each continent goes through a decrease of more than 50%. This could only mean that travelers traveling to a specific continent on the year 2020 is less than half of what it used to be every single year before the COVID outbreak happened. And a part of that, when discussing on planning on traveling, whether it be a business trip or holiday or anything related to it, the first thing that comes up to our mind is about accommodation. Therefore, when talking about accommodation, it is usually related to something that we know as hotels or a place to stay. Therefore, our team decided to choose two of the high-profile companies or brand named Hilton and Marriott as an example to show you how COVID-19 has affected these highly known businesses. And it is something to die for, to go there for once or twice in a lifetime to experience staying in a high-end hotel. And as you can see on this chart, the sale wasn't a stable one that keeps increasing every year, but it was more on an up and down result. However, they were still able to make it up till that high, only for it to dive back down nearly to its initial. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is proof on how COVID-19 as a pandemic could affect our tourism sector. And we are not talking about small business, but a very big one.
Other than the tourism industry, the aviation industry was also heavily affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The reduction of tourists as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic has created a domino effect and caused the aviation industry to lose revenue to such an amount that has never been seen before. Some reports stated that the amount lost is much greater than after the 9/11 incident, which at the time made people really afraid to go on planes. The loss of revenue for the aviation industry in 2020 is estimated to be around $84 billion according to the International Air Transport Association. There are lots of causes to this loss of revenue, with the most notable one being the drop of passengers due to quarantine. You see, the number of global passengers was at an all-time high during 2019. This number was predicted to grow even higher for years to come. However, the arrival of this virus has seen a total reduction up to over 60% of global passengers in 2020. Nowadays, the number is slowly but surely going up. Now, you might be wondering, what are some airline industries that have been badly affected by this virus? This include many big names such as Emirates, British Airways, Qatar Airways, and AirAsia. These massive airline companies took many measures to combat the loss of revenue. Some of the measures include the reduction of salaries, laying off staff, suspending flight routes, and applying for government aid. Smaller airlines have a harder time combating this virus, and some even filed for bankruptcy. Now, the question is there any alternative methods that could help these industries from losing more revenue?
In order for us to confront with the economic struggles that we are facing these days, we must provide a modus operandi as a solution for the society to overcome those problems. Therefore, the only alternative that has been introduced is vaccination. What is vaccine? And why is it important for us? Essentially, vaccine is a biological preparation that provides active acquired immunity to a particular infectious disease such as COVID-19. Vaccine is important because it will contributing to herd immunity. In addition, it will prevent an infected person
for becoming seriously ill or dying. Furthermore, it also can reduce a person's risk of contracting the dangerous virus. In conclusion, vaccines will continue to be highly effective at preventing rate of hospitalization.
According to the analysis on per capita GDP growth rate from the World Economic Outlook, richer countries are projected to vaccinate quicker and recover economically quicker from COVID-19, while poorer countries haven't been able to vaccinate their health workers and most at-risk population, and also they might not achieve pre-COVID-19 levels of growth until 2024.
After we have been exposed to an infection, our immune system remembers the threat, in particular by producing antibodies. These are proteins that circulate in the blood and throughout the body. They quickly recognize and disable the invader upon contact, thereby preventing or minimizing illness. This is why we usually do not get sick with the same bug twice. We are immune. Once a potential vaccine is discovered, a number of checkpoints exist before it can be administered to people. When the potential vaccine achieves the necessary preclinical results, clinical trials can begin in a small group of people. As the vaccine candidate advances, it is tested on increasing numbers of people, with scientists and doctors closely monitoring safety, efficacy, and dosing. Upon successful completion of clinical trials, the vaccine candidate must be reviewed and approved by regulatory agencies such as the FDA before large-scale manufacturing and distribution gets underway and the licensed vaccine is administered widely.
If our country will be able to achieve 100% herd immunity by injecting each and every one of the citizens with the vaccines, only then we will be able to live our life like how we used to before COVID and begin the process of economic recovery again. That's why the vaccination was really important, not only for our health, but it also brings a big impact on our economic situation. In order to set their respective businesses back on track, initiatives such as cutting down prices, reduction on salary, and applying for government aid has been taken to minimize losses and avoid bankruptcy. Thus, these businesses will live on to see another day. Governments should also stay vigilant with their vaccination programs if countries wish to relive the old normal. There's no denying that the pandemic have set the tourism and aviation industry back a couple years, and it will take more time and effort to restore the economy back to its pre-pandemic state. However, in the economical world of loss and gain, time is our only ally. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wow! Thank you, Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Munawir. That was a very informative and beneficial presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the question and answer session. If any of the audience have any sort of inquiries, please leave them in the chat box. Welcome back, judges, to the studio. Is there any question from the audience?
Pardon for alias emergency. Well, the first question is from the user Raja N. What are other ways that the hotels can do to not go into bankruptcy? Can the presenters please answer the question?
Okay, I'll start off with this question. Okay, what are the other ways that the hotel can do to not go into bankruptcy? So, firstly, some hotels do some other side businesses. Like, for example, this one hotel in Penang, they are going into bankruptcy. So, one of the ways they try to avoid bankruptcy is by doing business like even small businesses like selling goods in order to at least have a side income for their own businesses. I think that answers the question.
Thank you for the feedback.
Okay,
Is there
Assalamualaikum,
any
boys.
more?
Okay, so can we proceed with Ainin question first?
Next up, we have a question from user Ainin Sofia Shasha that goes, as a student, how do you divide your time studying while doing the research? Any thoughts from our presenters?
Well, as future leaders, we must know how to divide our time readily, because with studies and research, there's a lot going on. So we divide our time for studying during the day and research during the night. So that gives us ample time for both studying and research.
Such a crystal clear explanation. Thank you for the response.
Okay, Assalamualaikum again, boys. Mr. Anwar here. All right, so I have two questions. Okay, the first one is, why do you choose vaccination as your priority to tackle the economical problem? Two. Second one, okay, so Malaysia, Langkawi had been chosen as the travel bubble by the government of Malaysia. So, in your opinion, do you think the initiative taken by the government is to help boosting the economy of Malaysia, or is it just try and error mechanism?
Okay, for this question, I'm going to answer the first one and I'll give it to Khatib for the second. Okay, you asked us why did we choose vaccination as like a point to how we are going to boost our economy. Firstly, the vaccination is like a second, it's an immunity plan where people are getting the vaccination to be immune. So this COVID-19 is a disease. So whenever we contract a disease, it's going to end up with we dying or going to suffer from it. So, from the injection or vaccination, we were able, it's not that we can avoid, but when we took the injection, we will lessen up the symptoms and will most likely go through a life that's same with what we're going through right now. So, I hope that explanation was clear to you, Mr. Muhammad Anwar. And next up, Khatib.
All right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Anwar, can you repeat the second question?
Okay, so the second question is about Langkawi as one of the travel bubble. Okay, do you think it is just a try and error mechanism by the government of Malaysia, or is it to help boosting the economy of Malaysia?
Because Langkawi is one of the top most tourist attractions in Malaysia, and a lot of economists have already done their research from the government. So I believe that making Langkawi a travel bubble will boost the economy significantly, because a lot of research and a lot of time, a lot of effort has been done towards this decision. So the decision of making Langkawi as a travel bubble, I believe, should significantly increase the economy and boost the economy for Malaysia.
All right, thank you, clear.
Is there any comment from our judges since we have a bit of time left?
Just to congratulate Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Munawar for an excellent question and answer session. You know, you can answer very well. Thank you.
Well, that concludes all the questions. With that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you, Sekolah Menengah Sains Tuanku Munawir, and the presenters Nabil Aklan Muhammad Faizal and Muhammad Khatib Abdul Huda for such a fascinating presentation.
The sudden rise of the COVID-19 pandemic surely has disrupted billions of lives and impacted the global economy. Following the 8 Sustainable Development Goals, its aim is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. We are encouraging students to think outside the box and create possible solutions while resonating and feeling empathy for other people currently struggling economically in the midst of this pandemic. Alia, may I ask you, what are your thoughts on this matter?
I'm actually deeply sorry and for the for the people who are struggling during this pandemic, and I hope through this symposium we can spread awareness about this current situation, and together we can help other people who are not quite lucky. That's my thought.
Thank you for the input. Moving on, let's listen to the next presentation from the school IGC Thai Binh Duong Primary Middle High School, Vietnam, with their research video entitled Retooling Local Markets in Facing the Challenges of COVID-19 Pandemic and Sustainable Economy. Here with us, we have Cheng Nguyen Huang Tao and Nguyen Huang Tao Ni as presenters for this team. Please welcome.
The pandemic is slowly but surely calming down. Even though its fourth wave hit Vietnam and it's been the worst one out of the fourth. But vaccines are being given to the community. Predictions are that the pandemic will calm down to Directive 15 in about 4 to 5 months and calm down in lower Directive in 8 to 10 months.
Business in local markets in Asian countries, especially in Vietnam, plays a vital role in the country economy as a profitable sidewalk economy. The primary requisite for market formation is there is a meeting between sellers and buyers, even in different places or in workplaces. The market is also an economic element that can bring benefits and prosperity to human life. By Tony in 2014.
It brings loads of benefits, serving as an easily accessible instant source of foods and products, encouraging the local economy, creating jobs for a majority of people, and stimulating a sense of community.
However, while the COVID negative impact influences different aspects of the global economy, the traditional market remained one of the most vulnerable based on some data collected between 2020 and 2021.
Traditional markets are seen as an organizational system comprising interconnected and interdependable elements, thus forming a complex unity that supports each other's components. In this case, the market system includes several components, namely rotation, production, distribution, transportation, and transaction, by Nastidi in 1995.
The activities are not only goods and services exchange or selling and buying, but also information and knowledge exchange by ECONOMY in 2012.
The market became even crucial as customers who have lost jobs or have seen a drop in their incomes will need affordable food and other products.
Statement of the problem. 1. What are the challenges faced by local market? 2. How can local markets thrive during the COVID-19 pandemic? 3. What are the coping strategies that local markets have during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Theoretical framework, market theory, and network analysis.
Methodology. The researchers make use of quantitative approach. Interview were the main tool used in the study. An interview in qualitative research is where questions are asked to elicit information. The researcher used records and surveys to interview the vendors. Each record takes from 2 to 5 minutes. The researchers make use of quantitative approach. Interview were the main tool used in the study. An interview in qualitative research is where questions are asked to elicit information. The researcher used records and surveys to interview the vendors. Each record takes from 2 to 5 minutes.
The research purposive sampling. It's a form of non-probability sampling in which researchers rely on their total judgment when choosing members of populations to participate in their surveys. The researchers have interviewed 10 people in total, which is 5 people use recording and the others use Google Forms.
For analysis of data, we executed coding, which is the process of identifying a passage in a text or other data items, searching and identifying concepts, and finding a relation between them. Also, thematization is a preliminary step in all types of analysis of qualitative data. It is a process of analyzing interview response and arranging themes. Data is analyzed for the presence of themes.
For the results, the vendors were asked about the situation of their business before and during the pandemic, and they said that when the epidemic reached the highest level of the seriousness, it was completely impossible for them to trade. Some of the vendors responded,
I am so disappointed that I could not sell anything anymore. I just stay at home during this time. I don't have any saving or money left. I have to wait for my children who live far away from me to send me the money.
Participants were asked about problems they have encountered while running business during the COVID-19 pandemic. The participants have answered that they have problems related to supply and acquisition of goods. Some of the vendors responded.
That was painful when I could not go out to sell things to others, not for profit, but for people's need. The vendors were asked about online retailing, which is a solution that pharmacies need to do right now to meet the needs of the people and to be safe for pharmacies to avoid crowds. On the other side, parallel online business and direct business, depending on some items, and if necessary, switch to online depending on the customer's desire to go to the place of sale. Some of the vendors responded,
I cannot shift to online retail because it is useless to trade without products or materials from the suppliers. They aren't permitted to ship supplies to me due to the COVID, so I have to stop my business. I cannot do anything else.
The vendors were asked about the strategies to make retailing better. Most of them said that to create an online page, they will always need a person to contact a professional shipping company with the cheapest price possible and answer customer needs. So online retail is better. Some of the vendors responded.
I am sad because there are so many problems brought by the pandemic, but besides that, I could sell online to others, not for profit, but help them throughout the COVID-19. The vendors were asked how their business was maintained during the pandemic and the solutions to dealing with the budget. They said that their budget is not affected, but the problem they need to do now is lack of labor. The solutions include increasing salary for employees, offering reward to employees who do excellent work, ensuring the basic needs of hygiene, food, rest, and others. Others said everything freezes if the situation persists. Some of the vendors responded,
That would be bad news when I could not maintain business with many employees during the pandemic. But at the moment, I could deal with my budget because I always follow the step of avoiding COVID-19 to protect myself.
Vendors were asked about a solution applied to their community to deal with the challenge of the pandemic. Most of them answered that they have to follow 5K directive correctly and deal with their budget. Some of the vendors responded.
Until now, I have always followed the measures and directives from the government, which means I could still stay strong during the pandemic.
As the conclusion, local markets are the key to the COVID-19 recovery plan in terms of economic development, public health, and social inclusion. Its economic role is also essential for local markets to offer an affordable price for a large community.
With COVID-19 around, lockdowns are necessary to keep the pandemic under control. Vietnamese citizens are instructed to stay home and only go out when necessary. This brings problems to those who work by cycling from place to place to sell their goods.
Even with existing problems, Many suggestions are coming from the government on how to improve the situation. There are plans on reopening the market temporarily in some locations, with stated with caution to operate, vendors are required to be fully vaccinated.
Some of the suggestions have been in effect and brought back some positive impacts. It may not solve the problems, but can temporarily prevent the spread.
As mentioned above, one of the main functions of local market is to encourage a sense of community and face-to-face interaction between vendors and customers. However, the features of a normal online trading platform is to reduce direct communications between sellers and buyers.
Accordingly, the Connect application has been designed with virtual tours where customers can visualize the shops and products through simple instructions. They still can visit the stores they have been familiar with in real life and buy fresh vegetables or meat they normally find in their daily market shopping.
While the popular 3D museums of Google can bring visitors to historical objects of museums just through a screen of a cell phone on iPad, a virtual tour designed in the Connect applications can both help to solve the problem of the COVID-19 pandemic and save the spirit of traditional market.
This feature of the application works as a form of digital tourism, which persuades customers to use the app of the local market than the one of the supermarket.
To make the app widely accessible and persuasive to users, there should be involvement from the government in terms of offering and introducing beneficial policies. This suggestion is based on behaviors of Vietnamese citizens, since they are more willing to download apps that are stimulated by the government.
The list of policies that goes with the app includes financial support, generating discounts for buyers and profit for vendors.
Wow, thank you Thai Vinh Duong, Primary Middle High School Vietnam, for such an amazing research video. I'm sure we are all astounded. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the question and answer session. I would like to invite the audience to ask any questions for the presenters to answer. First up, a question from the user Mariam Huda. What other method could we do to persuade people who doesn't want to receive vaccine, as this is important for employees during work? What are our presenters' thoughts on this question? Will the
Thank you
presenters
for your
kindly
question.
answer?
Thank you for your questions. So, the other method that we could do to persuade people who doesn't want to receive vaccines, as this is very important for the employees during work, I think is providing the news from the government to show them the importance of of getting the vaccines and what if they don't get the vaccines, what will happen to them. And I'll pass my answer to my partners.
So we could use method like listing the benefit of the vaccination and call out that maybe the vaccine will help your family, your close contacts, and others. So it can bring benefit to you to get the vaccine.
Thank you for the lengthy explanation.
Next up, we have a question from user Ainin Sofia Shasha Abdul Aziz that goes, how does COVID-19 affect the small business? Can our presenters please clear the air?
Thank you for your questions once again.
Thank you for the question. So, as you know,
due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the small business have to shut down their stalls, and most of them, 40% of the operators facing the possibility of bankruptcy, and only 1/3 of the marketplace partially remained open, especially the small business in the local markets.
Thank you for your informative explanation.
Are there any more questions from the viewers today? It looks like there aren't. So let me invite the judges to. Okay, another question from user Sarah Khadija Nur Shamsud. She asks, as a teenager, suggest ways to help our country's economy during this pandemic. Can the presenters
Thank you.
please answer?
Thank you for the question. So, as a teenager, in my opinion, one of the most effective way to help the country's economy is to support small business by either online shopping, or we can use donation, charity, and stay at home during this time to reduce the cases.
Thank you for answering the user's inquiry. Now, will the judges give any comments or pose any questions to the presenters?
All right. Good morning. Based on the response just now, actually, what measures have been taken by the government of Vietnam to support the local market?
Thank you for your questions. So, to support the local markets, the government have taken a few measures such as support them in financial, and also give them the vaccines free, especially the vendors who are older, and about 40s or 18 up. They will get the vaccines first, so they could uh, um, work at the local markets, and the markets can be reopened.
Well, thank you for your explanation. Is there any more comments from the judges?
Okay, I have one. Right. So good morning. I would like to. I'm very interested with KNet. Is it KNet? How pronounce it? And I assume it is a local platform for online trade.
Yes.
Can you explain more about KNet? KNet?
So, thank you for the question. So, what is KNEC? Our app KNEC actually comes from the word connect. We created it in order to connect the people of our communities, so people like seller and buyer or local market to other markets. We also want to encourage a connection by communicating and still maintaining the ways of income.
Okay, thank you.
With that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you, IGC Tai Bin Duong, Primary Middle High School Vietnam, and the presenters, Trang Huang Tong and Nguyen Huang Tao Ni, for such a thought-provoking presentation. Now, ladies. Hannah, do you know about the first inception of FRSIS?
Well, I think I've heard it before, but I don't quite remember. Can you help to refresh my memory?
Well, just to let you know, the first ever fully residential school international symposium was hosted by Sekolah Tun Fatimah in 2011 with the theme Students, a Catalyst of Change for a Better Tomorrow. Ever since its first inception in 2011, it has been held for a total of 8 times, making this year's symposium being the 9th one held. And actually, this is the first time it's held online. Hannah, how do you feel about this symposium being held online?
Well, I have quite mixed feelings because, as we all know, handling these events online has a lot of obstacles and hurdles that we have to go through, such as the internet constantly fluctuating and websites going down, and even device problems. And I'm sure everyone that was included in this event, the teachers, the participants, everyone present here, we have faced a lot of problems in order for this event to go smoothly. But look at us here today. We are doing just fine, and I hope it continues to run smoothly. But I also think that this is a great experience for all of us. As we all know, technology is the future.
I feel the same too. Well, we will now continue on with Sekolah Menengah Sains Banting to present their research videos entitled COVID-19 Global Economic Shock. Here with us, we have Muhammad Afiq Irfan Rozaman and Iza Zafira Muhammad Helmi as the presenters. Please welcome.
COVID-19 has taken a toll on the economic flow all across the globe. The key to a healthy economy is the steady flow of money, goods, services, and customers. However, the life-saving stay-at-home orders are putting a hold onto the balance of these elements. Today, we are deciphering the more in-depth root causes of this 180-degree change. Hi, Assalamualaikum and a great day to all. I, Nur Wafa, alongside my other teammates, Mrs. Zafira, Afiq Irfan, and Zafir Irfan, supported by our teacher, Mrs. Halina, we are from Team Alithia, representing Banting Science School to elaborate more on COVID-19 Global Economic Shock.
As we know it, COVID-19 has left a huge impact towards our life and comfort zone. Many have been impacted severely, particularly finance-wise. COVID has set us back to almost rock bottom, and some may not even be able to gain their financial status as before. The key points I am going to talk about today is how the COVID pandemic has increased job losses all around the world, with an estimation of 225 million workers worldwide and 81 million workers at Asia-Pacific labour markets. The most affected by this are young workers and women because they are the minority and are most vulnerable in the labour industry. This is due to the fact that most companies are desperate to survive but can't pay off their labour workers and end up firing them or ending their contracts. We should also focus on how self-employed workers and small business owners are also in crisis, whereas they can't afford rent and are experiencing trouble in finding customers due to COVID restrictions and slow manufacturing by suppliers. This possesses a deadly consequence for them in the long run, and they may not even be able to run a business again in the future if they aren't helped by their government. According to the World Bank Organization, poverty rate has also risen between 119 to 124 million worldwide, which is due to the fact that labor market is being heavily impacted and the rise of extreme poverty from the working class.
We carried out a set of questionnaire and received 476 responses. The respondents were mostly from Malaysia. From this set of questionnaire, we can conclude that the working class and personal business owners are negatively impacted during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Moving on, let's not forget how the tourism is also heavily impacted due to COVID-19 compared to any other industry. Tourism consists of labor-intensive accommodations, public services, food industry, and also the airline industry. One fact we could not deny is export revenues from tourism fell by 910 billion to $1.2 trillion in 2020. This has had a wider impact and has reduced global GDP by 1.5% to 2.8%. Tourism has had its fair deal of repercussions when 189 countries, home to roughly 65% of the world population, closed all land and sea transportation into their country. With less international tourists being an economic factor, these industries had had a huge loss to their revenues and even some businesses closing down. Not to forget small businesses, which shoulder 80% of the global tourism, are definitely impacted crucially from this pandemic. On top of that, the airline industry are still facing consequences due to major disruptions in the airline industry, with airline failures and travelling still considered as a risk of getting COVID-19. With that said, it's not a surprise that COVID-19 has given a huge impact towards everyone in this world, and we should also help one another in reducing its effects. With that, I pass my presentation to my colleague Iza.
Thank you, Afiq. Moving on, the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted the gross domestic product, or GDP, of countries globally. The definition of GDP is the total value of goods and services produced within the country during a specified period of time, normally a year. With governments all around the world implementing safety measures and restrictions like lockdowns and social distancing as a policy to break the chain of infections, consumers are less likely to buy products like they used to before the pandemic due to the fear of getting infected by the virus. Companies and personal business owners are also desperately trying to save money instead of spending them towards the betterment of their companies, leaving plenty of businesses in ruins. And this has been a major factor of decrease in production. Moreover, GDP is highly impacted by a country's exports and imports. As we all know, production has been low because of the pandemic. Therefore, exports have also taken a toll, especially during COVID-19 infection spikes in their respective countries. For example, China has had their fair deal of drop in exports during February 2020 when they had a massive infection spike in their country. As a result, the imbalance between production and cash flow during this pandemic crisis caused a GDP disruption and around a 3.5% drop all across the globe. Last but not least, COVID-19 has heavily disrupted the oil and gas industry. This is due to the excessive production of oil by demand reaching an all-time low. The reason for the drop of demand in oil and gases is due to the COVID-19 restrictions being implemented. People are staying at home and vehicles are not being put in use as much as they were before, resulting in a dangerously vulnerable position for the oil and gas industry as prices have been significantly lower. This has led to a downward trend in oil prices that has negatively affected governments like Brunei and Saudi Arabia, which rely on oil as their main source of income. The world is so oversupplied with oil that the storage tanks are filling up to an excessive rate. So private oil companies are paying people to take the oil off of their hands instead, thereby causing negative oil prices and leading to a sharp drop in oil price. For instance, the US oil price per barrel of West Texas Intermediate, or WTI in short, which is the benchmark for the US oil, dropped to a whopping negative $37.63 a barrel in April 2020. This should already be seen as proof that the oil industry has been impacted by the pandemic.
Right now, we are in need to bounce back from this economic downfall. Businesses and sectors are in progress of opening again. Even though COVID-19 is still an active virus in our country, with proper approach like vaccines, the risk of catching the virus has decreased immensely due to the herd immunity built. Hence, opening businesses shouldn't be a problem anymore. This should be a great recovery plan to slowly revive our economy and regain personal well-being. With that said, this wraps up our presentation today.
We've reached the end of the video. To quickly recap, COVID-19 has left a huge impact on number 1, the poverty rate, 2, the tourism industry, 3, oil prices, and last but not least, the GDP. We hope you gained a lot of information from watching this video. Thank you so much for your interest and attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Sekolah Menengah Sains Banting, for such a wonderful presentation. I am sure we are all astounded by the great research presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure some of you have some questions regarding the presentation just now. Fret not, as we will be starting the question and answer session. We have our first question from user Raja N that goes, what is your opinion about the opening of Langkawi to boost the tourism industry? Can our presenters please clear the air?
Good question. I think this is a great way in ensuring our tourism industry in Malaysia booming after a very long period of pandemic that has been going on for 1.5 to 2 years. As Langkawi as a major industry place for tourism, I think this brings a huge impact for our economy in the next few months. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you for such a crystal clear explanation.
Here comes the second question from the user Tommy Shelby that goes, do you think the government has helped small businesses during the pandemic? Can the presenters please answer the user's question?
Again, a very good question. In my opinion, the government has given the small businesses and self-employed workers a sum of money throughout the pandemic through LHDN, Perkeso. So it is a very good way to ensure these businesses are afloat. But is it enough to maintain their businesses for the entirety of the pandemic? I don't think so. So the government should have a specified and targeted recovery plan for these small businesses and self-employed workers, so that when we reach to the endemic phase for this COVID virus, that these businesses could have a good head start in ensuring their businesses booming again. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for clearing the air.
We have another question from user Ainin Sofia Shasha Abdul Aziz that goes, do you think teenagers nowadays are aware of these economic issues? Can our presenters kindly answer the question?
Thank you, Ainin Sofia, for the question. In my opinion, most teenagers are not aware about the economic issues. And that is why I think this research is important in order to create awareness. Because without awareness, we can't exactly provide a solution for the problem. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. Do we have any more questions? It looks like there aren't. So can our judges please make a comment or post any inquiries to the presenters?
I have one question. To the presenter, how do you encourage people to spend money in order to boost our economy? That's a question.
Very good question. I think the most visible way of that is by encouraging e-commerce, because with platforms such as Lazada, Shopee giving out discounts, and like each month they have these special discounts. I think this encourages people to buy more products and therefore increasing our economy.
Thank you for answering the judges' question. Is there any more comments from our other judges? How about you, Ms. Farah?
All right. Just a question. How many travel bubbles can be created in Malaysia to boost the tourism industry? What do you think? Other than Langkawi?
I think there are actually a lot of travel bubbles that we could create in Malaysia, such as at Malacca. Urban areas also could be considered as a travel bubble, um, but mostly the directed ones are to islands in Malaysia, as it is a very it is a unique Malaysian thing to go to travel to Langkawi or Pulau Pangkor, something like that. But majorly, our tourism industry is more focused on these islands. So I think that would answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you for answering the judge's question. With that concludes all the questions. With that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you Sekolah Menengah Sains Banting and the presenters Muhammad Afiq Irfan and Izzah Zafira for such a stimulating presentation.
I'm sure some of you in the audience didn't manage to join the first session just now, so allow me to reread some facts about FRSIS. For your information, this year's Fully Residential Schools International Symposium has received participation from countries such as India, Thailand, Turkey, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Philippines. This year, a total of 105 international participants have come together in this auspicious event. In addition, the total number of participants is around 470 students, comprising all 70 fully residential schools nationwide. Alia, can you name a few schools that are participating in our event today?
I think there are participation from Sekolah Tuanku Abdul Rahman, Sekolah Tun Fatimah, Sekolah Menengah Sains Miri, and from international we have Sekolah Menengah Atas Negeri 1 Purworejo, and St. Mark Senior Secondary High Public School from Mirabag, New Delhi, India.
Thank you so much for sharing. Well, moving on, we will move on to the next school, which is Sekolah Tun Fatimah, to present their research video entitled Rise in E-Commerce, a Blessing in Disguise. With us here today, we have the presenters, Wan Huda Nabila Wan Muhammad and Nur Alia Shazwani Haris. Please welcome.
Hold up. Before I proceed any further, let me introduce to you about our background research. First and foremost, we have 3 objectives. First, examining consumer behavior. Second, identifying the impact of e-commerce platform on consumer behavior. And lastly, analyzing how companies and small businesses are responding and adapting to the new norms. We carry out 2 methods for this research. First, we carry out online questionnaire through Google Form. And second, we carry out online library research through Google Scholar and other search engines. That's all for now. Let's proceed to the main show.
Hello guys, it's your reliability supplier here, Miss A. Well, let me take you back to the first phase of how this pandemic started, and that will be the end of 2019. People worldwide have been shocked by the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic, and they're trying to adapt to the new norm. During this shocking transition, we can see that consumers are crowding shopping malls, excessively buying goods to face the lockdown while worrying about the unpredictable future. We can also see that many can't afford to buy supplies because of the financial problem due to loss of business or income. People are overwhelmed with mixed emotion during this time. Confusion, anxiety, stress, and worries. No. I don't want to let you guys remember the pain and chaos that we have been through together during the pandemic. So, let me stop it here. Well, are you familiar with this audio? Yes, you have heard it a bunch of times on YouTube ads, on the radio, or TV commercials, everywhere. What's the name of the app then? Yes, the one that you're thinking, and that's it. It's our beloved shopping app, Shopee. But wait, what's the connection between Shopee and today's topic? Well, you saw it. The title is about e-commerce, and Shopee is an e-commerce platform. You must be wondering what exactly is e-commerce. I'm not going to ruin the fun, so stay tuned.
Alia has shared with you a sneak peek on how people react to the pandemic, and I am here to give more details about exactly how people buying behavior change throughout this MCO. Before that, my name is Nabila, and I'm here to spill a lot of tea about this topic. Before MCO, generally people prefer to go shopping in physical store since it is a better experience overall. However, with the enforcement of MCO, people now prefer online shopping or using delivery service to minimize movement. As for payment methods, most customers are likely to use contactless payment such as online banking or e-wallet compared to hard cash. According to the UOB Asian Consumer Sentiment Study on January 4, 2021, this is to reduce contact with other people that may be a carrier of the COVID-19 virus. Our team has carried out research to gain more understanding on this topic. Our research has indicated that overall spending has increased for the majority of consumers. People are now using online shopping as a kind of therapy during a lockdown, thus buying more. This is based on a survey conducted by Monash Business School Australian Consumer and Retail Studies in September 2020. On the other side of the spectrum, people who have become unemployed or working day-to-day jobs are shopping less due to the limited saving as the pandemic prolongs. In a nutshell, most people are switching to e-commerce or online shopping during this MCO mainly because it is convenient and a time saver, and this was even acknowledged before the pandemic based on research done by International Journal of Advanced Research in Computer and Communication Engineering in June 2018.
You guys have been waiting and wondering what exactly is e-commerce. Electronic commerce or e-commerce is a business model that let firms and individuals buy and sell things over the internet. Since there's a change of pattern in people's buying behaviors as they need to stay at home to break the chain of COVID-19 transmission. This is when e-commerce started to bloom, according to a 2020 study by International Journal of Future Generations. Why is that so? To gain a clear picture of this, we have done an online survey using a questionnaire to get information on respondents' online shopping habits during this pandemic. Based on the survey that we conducted, out of 208 respondents, the two main reasons people like shopping through e-commerce platforms are its convenience and better discounts. E-commerce is also an accessible platform to use for all age range. Besides, e-commerce saves you more time compared to the traditional way of shopping. All of the points that I stated just now has something in common. That's it, meeting consumers' requirements. Not only does e-commerce give advantages to the consumers, but it's also a lifesaver among retailers. E-commerce helps retailers in the sustainability of their businesses based on a May 23, 2021 Malaysian Investment Development Authority article. We can imagine that there will be a high risk of retailers losing sources and income and leading to businesses bankruptcy if the e-commerce doesn't exist.
One last thing that I want to highlight about the advantage of e-commerce platforms is that it helps create job opportunities, especially in the food industry. Delivery men are one of the most wanted jobs nowadays due to the high demand of online food delivery based on a 2020 research study by University of Gulf students. Nowadays, it's common knowledge that many young entrepreneurs are starting their businesses as early as in their teenage years. So, if you guys are interested in creating your own, this is a sign for you to start it now at e-commerce.
Thank you, Alia. Now, let us look into how companies and small businesses are adapting to this pandemic. This pandemic has reduced the earning of many small businesses and companies. This has forced them to be more innovative by experimenting with different and unique ways to promote their businesses to stay afloat. Based on 2021 Loyalty Barometer report published by Merkle Incorporation, some of these distinctive methods include holding regular monthly sales to attain the loyalty of new and existing customers. In addition, we can see that all giant e-commerce sites such as Shopee and Lazada will hold online sales, also called auspicious dates such as 11/11 and 9/9. As a result, these firms are increasing the usage of e-vouchers and free shipping promos, which has been a booster to online shopping traffic.
Rafiza, have you seen the video from the link I shared with you?
Yes, I have. That video teaches me a lot. E-commerce not only brings benefit to customers or retailers, it is also very impactful for our country.
Yes, that's right. In our challenging situation right now, our country's economy is badly affected, but the presence of e-commerce sector has become a significant contributor to our country's economy returning to stability.
If so, I want to start my own business through e-commerce so that I can help our country's economy, right?
Go Rafiza, I will be your number one supporter.
Wow! Thank you, Sekolah Tun Fatima, for such an astounding video. I'm sure we are all amazed. Now, I'm sure some of you have some questions regarding the presentation that we just watched. Fret not, as we will be starting the question and answer session. The audience may write down any questions in the chat box. First up, a question from the user Zahira Muzamir. She asks, in your opinion, what are the pros and cons of buying things online? Can our presenters please clear the air?
I'll take that question. Thank you for asking. The question is, in your opinion, what are the pros and cons of buying things online? So the pros, as we can see, we are in this pandemic, so we cannot go outside and buy physical physical things. So if we buy online, it is really convenient for us, especially if we want to buy our needs such as foods or rices to eat and stuff. And that is the pros. It is really convenient for people and it's really easy. And for the cons, I would like to say that we cannot trust the internet, how the picture, how the media, how the shoppers give media about the pictures, and that will turn out just like how the picture would be. So there's also some dissatisfaction between the consumer or customer about the product itself. So I would say the cost of buying online would be some products is not going to, and just like how you expect would be. That's all for me. I hope it answer your question. Thank you.
Such a good answer. Thank you, presenter.
Next up, we have a question from user Nur Adila Sulimai that goes, how to help small businesses who has limited connection to e-commerce? How could the government reach them? Can our presenters please kindly answer the question?
I'll take that question. Thank you for asking. So in this case, the government can create a section or any websites for the retailers so that they can comment or give something, give some the retailers could give their opinion on how they are going to go continue on their businesses. Other than that, the government also can give like minimal supplies for them to help their businesses to go continue. I think that's answer your question.
Are there any
Okay.
more questions from the
All right.
audience?
Assalamualaikum, girls. Mr. Anwar here. All right. So I would like to ask you something. So based on your research, you say that you are able to get 200 online survey responses. Are you able to get their age, the age of the respondents? Is it yes or no?
Yes, we're able to get the age range, and that
Okay.
concludes between senior citizen, adults, and
All right.
teenagers.
Because when we talk about e-commerce, all right, so I'm not saying, okay, the generation gap is there. Okay, so we might not having some problem for the young or youth generation to familiarize ourselves with the platform. But we are more concerned about the older generation. Are they familiar with the e-commerce? So what would be your view about it?
From my point of view, I think like senior citizens they have their own personal exposure since it's been like 21st century, and I think that there's also senior citizens before the pandemic already has been exposed to these technologies, and there's also like their grandchildren or like their children itself has educated them with the technology, and I actually think that it's actually a little bit easy to absorb the knowledge of technology to the senior citizen to make it more to make it more consuming and to more important to them. Yes.
All right, thank you, Uda.
Welcome.
Thank you for answering the judges' questions. Would the other judges would like to give any comments on the video that we just watched or pose any questions?
Okay, how do you protect the consumers in e-commerce transactions against fraudulent vendors, for example? This question.
Pardon for the intrusion, but unfortunately the 5 minutes is up. And that concludes all the questions. With that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you once again, Sekolah Tun Fatimah and the presenters, Wan Huda Nabilah Wan Muhammad and Nur Alia Shazwani Haris for such a stimulating presentation and amazing answers.
As some of the audience may have missed the first session, I would like to tell you about this Symposium Objective. The vision for Fully Residential School International Symposium is to create world-class leaders. Consequently, Fully Residential School International Symposium has always been a platform to develop effective leaders who are not only aware of the current issues, but are also able to apply their knowledge in solving problems effectively. With the participations of students from all around the world, we are always aiming to create a significant impact in molding global leaders with towering personalities and improving leadership skills. Hannah, what do you thought about that?
Well, I hope that this event achieves its objectives and manages to create leaders that will lead this country to glory in the future or right now, even in the present.
Well, me too. Now, ladies and gentlemen, carrying on with today's symposium, let's give a warm welcome to our next presenters from Sekolah Menengah Agama Persekutuan Bentong. And let us continue with watching their video presentation entitled Effects of COVID-19 Towards Malacca's Local Community Economy on Tourism. Here with us in the studio are Wan Muhammad Arifuddin, Wan Ahmad, and Afifatul Christina Azhar. Please welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's straightly move on to the introduction.
The tourism sector in Malaysia, as with other countries, has been significantly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Inbound tourism ground to have as other countries closed their borders and restricted travel to control the spread of the virus, while the domestic tourism sector plunged due to the Movement Control Orders (MCO). As Malaysia grapples with a devastating third wave of COVID-19 infections, recovery in the tourism sector depends on the speed and success of its vaccination campaign.
Tourism sector is the third largest contributor to Malaysia's GDP in 2019. The tourism industry in Malaysia had experienced a significant growth phase with around 26.10 million arrivals and 86.1 billion receipts. However, in 2020, the growth phase does not continue. The number of visitor arrivals and tourism expenditure of domestic tourism dropped due to the COVID-19 lockdown. A total of 131.7 million domestic visitors were recorded in 2020, with a decrease of 44.9% as compared to the previous year, 2019, which is 8.1%. Selangor was the most visited state by domestic visitors in 2020, which accounted for 19.7 million visitors, followed by Perak with 13.2 million, and Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur with 12.4 million visitors.
Now, let me introduce the main focus of our research. Malacca has been chosen to be the main focus of our research because it is one of the most sought-after destinations in Malaysia. This state has been revived as a top big holiday getaway due to its many historic attractions. Nevertheless, the COVID-19 pandemic that approached our country on late 2019 has had a critical impact on all economic sectors in the state, especially the tourism sector, with a decline in tourist arrival exceeding 70% in 2020 compared to 2019, where Malacca had received 18.7 million tourists with a total revenue of 21,298 ringgit. Therefore, this research comprises two main objectives, which is to find out how much losses this pandemic has caused Malacca's local community economy and how they overcome it. Secondly, to discover plans for the government to restore and reconstruct the tourism industry in Malacca again.
So next we will be moving on to the methodology of our research. So in order to complete this project, two popular methods have been used to collect and identify legitimate information and evidence. The first one is read articles and previous research related to the crisis. We've used this first step because we believe reading is the basic and the core of doing research. Since we are not allowed to go to any library, we can only read online articles and some research that has been done before. The second one is interview some people who work in Malacca's tourism industry. We've also interviewed several people who work in the tourism sector in Malacca. This method is being done in order to strengthen and ensure the accuracy of the information we achieved. The respondents we've interviewed were used as our main reference if we need any confirmation on a particular question or information. Regarding them as a reference resource, we are more confident about the authenticity and accuracy of our information that's helping us to be as relevant as possible during our presentation.
The table presents the tourist expenditure patterns among domestic and international tourists in Malacca. Accommodation sectors recorded 64.7% from total tourist expenditure, hence become the major spending as compared to other sectors. It is not surprising to learn that the accommodation sector makes up the biggest percentage in the travel pattern bill since it a necessity for tourists. In fact, the variety of choices in accommodation facilities in Malacca catering to various needs of the tourism demands markets has resulted in tourists spending more nights in Malacca.
Food and beverages sector contributes second highest consumption with a huge different gap from accommodation expenditure. As a food paradise destination, Malacca offers different cuisine from the Malay, Chinese, Indian, Nyonya, and Portuguese. Transportation and entertainment recorded 1.5% and 2% respectively from the total expenditure. However, the lowest percentage recorded by shopping expenditure among tourists is extremely surprising. It is in contrast with the percentage in national tourist expenditure pattern in 2015, as shopping recorded 30% from total expenditure and placed as the second most consumed sector in tourism activities. The audience who observed the table provided in order to know the total expenditure of the tourism sector in Malaysia's local community.
Looking at to the second research finding, chart on the slide shows the number of visitors in Malacca from 2009 to 2020. From 2009, we could observe that the number of visitors slightly increased year by year. Starting in 2011, the number of visitors reached approximately 7,485, which shows an extremely increasing number compared to the past years regarding the development of tourism sectors in Malacca. These numbers continue to rise year by year until it reaches the peak of development in 2019. In 2020, around 7,275 visitors were reported. These records decreased from the previous number of 13,979 people for 2019.
The decreasing number of visitors in 2020 had caused a lot of business owners in Malacca, such as hotel business, food and beverage traders, incurred huge losses. Consequently, some of the owners choose to shut down and close their business forever because they are no longer able to run it. On the other hand, the business closure does not only affect the owners but also the people who work under them, which is the workers who lost their job too. Furthermore, this situation has caused the number of unemployment in Malacca's local community to increase, and it once affected Malacca's economy. Subsequently, there are also some of them who still have hope and faith in their business. So, they find other ways to overcome the problems than to close it. For example, some of the hotels in Malacca did a collaboration with private clinics to help the Ministry of Health by offering their hotels to become one of the quarantine centers for the COVID-19 patients.
Moving on to the second objective, on 9 October of 2020, the State Secretary Datuk Seri Dr. Hassan said that the state government has outlined several initiatives to fully develop the tourism sector and bring in more tourists to the state. The first initiative is adding new products to attract more tourists to Malacca, including ecotourism and heritage tourism. Secondly, the Malacca's government said that they will upgrade existing products so that they are always in attraction to visit. Besides that, the Malacca's government is also going to attract more world's leading brands to open outlets in the state premium outlet. Lastly, they will also organize a MICE, which stands for Meeting, Incentive, Conferencing and Exhibitions Program of an international standard in Malacca.
From this research, it may be concluded that many local communities who works in Malacca's tourism sector have been adversely affected during this pandemic. This issue has led to enormous effects affecting many other parties both inside and outside the state. According to our research, around 43.3% of people in Malacca has lost their job and require them to find a new job to ensure the economy stability. So it is proven that this pandemic gave such as a huge impact towards Malacca's tourism industry and Malacca's local community.
Last but not least, we from the FRSIS raise the case and thank you. Bye. Assalamualaikum. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Sekolah Menengah Agama Persekutuan Bentong, for such an intriguing presentation. To continue on, we will start our question and answer session. I would like to invite the audience to ask any questions for the presenters to answer. Any sort of inquiries are welcome in the chat box. Ask away. We have our first question from user Raja N. How to make sure the public adhere with SOPs in public places like restaurants, public transportations, and shopping complex. Can our presenters please clear the air?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ms. Raja N, for the question. So the question is how to make sure the public adhere with SOPs in public places like restaurants, public transportation, and shopping complexes. So actually, in terms of making sure the public adhere with the SOP, government have made many um, advertisement in order telling people about how COVID-19 adversely affect people and how fast COVID-19 could spread. But even by when we don't follow the SOP, the COVID-19, the new variant, as we all know, the new variant Delta, could actually spread from by 8 people, 1 to 8 people in one time. So actually, by giving out the advertisement and etc., the government could raise the awareness in public to make sure they follow the SOPs stated by the government. So I actually that clear the case. Thank you.
Thank you for your lengthy explanation.
Here comes another question from the user Ashikin Ramdan. She would like to ask, what are the strategies developed by Malacca to revive the economic sector? Can the presenters please answer the question?
So I picked these questions. Thank you for asking this question. I really love it because it's really related to our topic. So in our presentation, we already stated some of the plan and strategies Malacca state government developed. So there are some more strategies. Among them is to continue the Malacca Visit Malacca campaign that will start from 8 March until 31st December on next year. So this effort to revive the tourism industry in the state, which is getting worse following a series of movement control orders in the state. Apart from that, Melaka government also will cooperate with the Pekanbaru and Dumai regions in Riau, Indonesia, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in reviving their respective tourism sector which have been impacted by the effects of COVID-19. Also, the government state that they will launch the Rindukan Melaka campaign, and also there are one other campaign called called Dream Now Travel Letter. So this campaign they focus and target the domestic tourists in the state. Thank you.
Thank you for answering the questions, Accenture.
Since there are no more questions from the audience, would the judges be kind enough as to post any sort of inquiries or even make any comment for the presenters?
Okay, good morning to the presenters. Congratulations for the presentation. I just would like to continue with the same question just now, just to ask whether the measures taken by the government of Malacca are they impactful so far to the tourism industry in Malacca? Thank you.
I will keep the question. So thank you, Chief Judge Ms. Farah Maldi binti Aman. So actually the question, how I will repeat the question if uh, I understand it correctly. The question is how Malacca's administrator, Malacca's government have established the policy measures that affect the tourism sector in Malacca. So actually, Malacca's local community, Malacca's government have established many policy measures such as SOP and restriction of the borders that avoid people from entering Malacca. Avoid people from entering Malacca. Hence, actually making many tourists blocking many tourists from the other countries and even from the other nations to come visit Malacca, as Malacca is actually one of the most country with the huge amount of cuisine and culture.
Pardon
So
me, but I'm afraid that the time up is for the question and answer session, as we need to make room for the next presentation. Well, with that, that concludes all the questions. With that, our question and answer session has now come to an end. Thank you very much to Sekolah Menengah Agama Persekutuan Bentong and the presenters, Wan Muhammad Arifuddin, Wan Ahmad, and Afifatul Christina Azhar for answering the audience and the judges' curiosity.
Before moving on to the last theme for this session, does the audience want to know a fun fact? What about you, Alia?
Yes, I sure do, Hannah.
Well, Fully Residential Schools International Symposium is closely based around the idea of producing effective leaders who are aware of current issues. Not only that though, the sub-themes are also related to Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, outlined by the United Nations. With the participation of students from all around the world, there are 17 SDGs in total, but this track specifically focuses on the 8th SDG on decent work and economic growth. What are your thoughts about that, Alia?
I think the Sustainable Development Goals are actually good to make our world a better place. And as for the 8th one on economic growth, which is about our tracks today, I hope that we can learn a lot about it through the symposium today, and I hope the audience can actually learn something. That's all from me.
Thank you. I hope the same thing. Well, let's not waste any more time and let's welcome on board our last group from Sekolah Menengah Sains Kota Tinggi with their research video entitled COVID-19, the Effects and Future of Tourism Industry. We are so privileged to have Nur Shahrul Najah Idris, and Arya Zulkarnain Shalful Irwan as the presenters for this presentation. Please welcome.
And hi everyone! I am Nur Shahrul Najah from SM Science Kota Tinggi. Today, my members and I would like to present our topic on the global economy consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic on the tourism industry. Firstly, these are the members of the group and our supervising teacher.
It looks like we're facing a big technical difficulties. I hope for the audience understanding.
I am Nur Shahrul Najah from SM Science Kota Tinggi. Today, my members and I would like to present our topic on the global economy consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic on the tourism industry. Firstly, these are the members of the group and our supervising teacher. The COVID-19 pandemic has given a huge impact on our country's tourism industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the technical glitches.
I am Nur Shahrul Najah from SM Science Kota Tinggi. Today, my members and I would like to present our topic on the global economy consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic on the tourism industry. Firstly, these are the members of the group and our supervising teacher. The COVID-19 pandemic has given a huge impact on our country's tourism industry. Tourist arrivals to Malaysia fell by 83.4% with a total of 4,332,722 international tourist arrivals, marked a decrease from 26,100,784 tourist arrivals recorded in 2019. The objective of our research is to specify the effects of the collapse in the tourism industry on the huge businesses.
Hello everyone, I am Kuina Devi, and today in my presentation I will be focusing on the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic towards tourism industry, specifically towards tourist attraction. Now let's head on to the first effect of the COVID-19 pandemic towards tourist attractions, which is a drop in ticket revenues. As we all know, tourism industry is the country's third largest contributor in the economy sector, and due to the pandemic, it has now caused them to reduce their price ticket. Therefore, due to lack of visitors, stakeholders are now trying to regain people's attention by having promotions, discounts, rebates, and the like to be economically stable again. Next, the COVID-19 pandemic has also contributed to massive job loss in the tourism industry. This means that stakeholders are now experiencing difficulties in hiring workers at resorts and recreational areas due to unstable economic status and health factors. This has thus resulted in unpaid leaves and cut down on salaries, which can further lead to lost source of income towards workers. Moving on to the third effect, tourist attractions are now experiencing a loss of manpower to maintain the quality of a particular place. To be precise, construction workers are now restricted from revamping and maintaining the quality of a particular place due to lack of funds, money, and support. Last but not least, the COVID-19 pandemic has also resulted in shutting down tourist attractions for good. This happens when stakeholders can no longer afford to pay costly bills and high maintenance fees. A popular example is the zoo. For instance, in order to survive, Zoo Negara is now looking for volunteers and animal lovers to help care for their animals due to lack of workers, while on the other hand, Zoo Taiping is conducting virtual safari tours to help raise money. Overall, the COVID-19 pandemic has thus impacted the Visit Malaysia 2020 campaign VM 2020 and caused a downfall in the arrival of tourists from neighboring countries, especially when 50% of them are from Singapore and China. Therefore, our government has implemented various solutions in order to help curb these effects, and one of them is the COVID-19 Free Destination Program conducted by the Tourism, Arts and Culture Ministry. It is Malaysia's travel bubble project in conjunction with the National Recovery Plan (NRP), and so far the places involved across Malaysia include Kuching, Langkawi, Pangkor Island and Fraser's Hill. Its objective is to help boost interstate travel. The next initiative done by our government to help curb the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic towards tourism industry include introducing a stimulus package with an objective to help provide some incentives for tourism industry stakeholders who are severely affected by the outbreak. These include relaxation of tax incentives, restructuring of loans, postponements of payments, and even incentives for unemployed workers with a minimum salary of 4,000 ringgit and below, who are then eligible for Employee Insurance System (EIS) and even Social Security Organization (SOCSO). That is all from me now. I will now pass it to my friend Alia. Thank you very much for hearing my presentation.
Flights, tours, events, business trips and hotel reservations have been cancelled. Hotels are forced to lower their room reservation prices in order to attract more people to come and stay at the hotel at an affordable price, therefore increasing the hotel occupancy rates. Due to the MCO, hotels are struggling to keep their doors open and are unable to keep paying their staff salary. Managers no longer afford to pay their workers and rehire all their staff, results in unpaid leave or cut down on salary for the workforce. Last but not least, many hotels are facing bankruptcy. Despite the hotel rooms being unoccupied, they still have a lot of costs to cover up, such as utilities, wages, and the air conditioning services. As we all know, tourism industry is one of the main source of world income, and hotel industry is definitely included as it offers varieties of professions related to the industry. The MCO has made most of the hotels embark on temporary suspension of normal operation, which puts the estimated loss of jobs to 24.3 million globally. These are some of the long-term initiatives proposed for the hotel industry. The first one is make sure only people who are fully vaccinated gets to check in the hotel rooms. The second one is using antigen test for mass screening, as we can get the result within 15 minutes and it is also affordable. Government's role is to make sure more and more people get vaccinated every single day in order to achieve economic stability. There is also a strategy that can be followed by tourism industry in order to survive in this time of the pandemic. COVID strategy stands for cost cutting, orderliness, virtualization, integration, and domestication.
Thank you, Alia. Hi everyone, I'm Arif and I'm going to talk about airlines. Here are the airlines that are based in Malaysia. First, we have our national carrier, Malaysia Airlines. Second, we have AirAsia and AirAsia X. Last but not least, we have Malindo Air. Believe it or not, the international travel ban is applied throughout the world, but it differs according to the country's policies. And the international travel ban had also made these airline companies to have less international destinations and routes. The interstate travel ban, due to the Movement Control Order or MCO, had also given a great impact towards these airline companies, since there will not be much domestic flights operating. Travelers that are traveling within the country for work are required to have a letter from their company to show the reason why they are traveling, and a letter from PDRM as an agreement on that journey. Flights are cancelled and postponed. Over 4.316 million passengers were affected by flight cancellations, and a whopping 628,000 passengers were given a refund worth 399 million ringgit. Here are the proposed solutions for this issue. First of all, Every passengers are required to fill out a declaration form announcing where they are from and where they have been in the previous 14 days. After that, every passengers are required to perform a rapid antigen test before boarding. Next, tighten the safety measures in flights, such as reduce the amount of passengers and sanitize seats, overhead lockers, and the lavatory. Last but not least, make sure every of the cabin crew are fully vaccinated and wearing a personal protective equipment or PPE, which consists of a disposable apron, 3-ply face mask, and a face shield to prevent the spread of the virus.
Now, let's see the initiatives taken by other countries to rebuild the tourism industry. Vietnam supports domestic tourism that will continue to grow and will recover relatively fast because of growing domestic spending by travelers who cannot yet travel abroad. They are redirecting their money locally at a higher level than in 2019. Currently, Vietnam has strict travel restrictions in place and allows only a select number of weekly international flights for travel by experts and diplomats who are subject to mandatory quarantine on arrival. For developed countries like Japan, the COVID-19 outbreak can thus be expected to accelerate the penetration of artificial intelligence (AI) and robotics technology a lot more into the hospitality sector. More hotels are likely to adopt unmanned devices and use robots to provide completely contactless services. For example, robot receptionists, facial scan check-ins, voice guest control, and robot concierge assistant, and other countless services. Therefore, although the tourism industry seems bleak now, Malaysia could take these countries as example to minimize the loss and rebuild our tourism industry to a better future. With that, that's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you Sekolah Menengah Sains Kota Tinggi for such an informative and beneficial video. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has finally come for the next question and answer session. Now I would like to invite our audience to ask any questions that you'd like. First up, a question from the user Siti Ashirah Ismail. She asks, how long do you think our local tourism will suffer from this pandemic? And do you have any suggestions for them to bounce back? Will the presenters please answer the question?
Okay, I may take this question and I'll pass it to my partner for the next question. So, in my opinion, for this question, the local tourism will not suffer that long anymore since an hour ago, our health ministry just updated that our vaccination status for adults are already at 86.8%. So it is a very good number. And we will reach our herd community very soon. So in my opinion, so the country will not suffer until the first quarter next year, in my opinion. And for the suggestions, since we are already at 86.8% of the vaccination status, I think the government would really take a good step opening more travel bubbles in Malaysia, such as Pulau Pangkor, Pangkor Island, Penang, and Genting Highlands, and more. Yes, I hope that answers the questions. Thanks.
Thank you for the vaccination information and the explanation to the question. Any other questions from the viewers?
Next up, we have a question from user Roger N that goes, do you think technology can help the entrepreneurs to promote their businesses? Any thoughts from our presenters?
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. May I take this question? I think the technology is absolutely very good for the entrepreneurs to promote their businesses, as nowadays we have lots of platforms, popular platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So through these platforms, they can promote their businesses. Maybe by paying in-stock payments and maybe influencers to promote their product. That's all from me. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you for answering the question.
If there are no more questions from the audience, I would like to invite the judges to ask any questions to the presenters or give any comments about the video that we just watched. Would the
I have
chief
a
judge
question.
would like to go first?
I have a question. What's your suggestion to these, let's say, hotel operators when it comes to tourism, where they have to enforce strict SOPs and the conflict between them earning the income? That's a question.
Please unmute your mic if you want to answer.
I'm so sorry for this question. I think for the hotels, we can for the hotels they can promote their hotels with a lower price and also deal with the SOP with a very good with how to say teamwork with other organizations such as the clinics and the medical assistants out there to work with them in order to ensure the SOPs are followed by the visitors, and also they can also cooperate with other organizations to ensure that the prices will not go up. Yeah, that's my answer. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you for the feedback. Any more questions from the other judges?
Okay, I have one more question. So since the tourism sector, one of the SOP is they need to be fully vaccinated in term, if let's say they want to check in the hotel. So if let's say they don't want to be vaccinated, what will be your view about it?
I may take this question. So some of the initiatives that we can take to pursue people who are anti-vaccine to take vaccine. Firstly, we can limit their movements, which means they are illegal to go to most places. For example, to go to the mall, maybe traveling to other countries, we can stop them from going there because of they are not fully vaccinated. Because vaccines are very important, and also we can also tell them the efficiency of the vaccine itself through social media, like Instagram.
Sorry
because
to
that is
interrupt,
most okay. Thank you.
but
I hope
unfortunately
that answers
time
the
is up.
question.
And that concludes
Right,
all the
thank you.
questions. And with that, this session of question and answer has now come to an end. Thank you so much, Sekolah Menengah Sains Kota Tinggi, and the presenters, Nur Syahrul Najah Idris and Arif Zulkarnain Syaiful Irwan, for such amazing answers.
It is the end of our second session for today. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind all of you that there was an online quiz released in the chat box. You can look for the pinned comment. For your information, if you manage to answer 80% of the questions correctly, you will be awarded with an Achievement E-certificate. The online quiz will be open until tomorrow, 3rd October at 10 a.m. Just so you know, we have different sets of questions for our online quizzes according to the tracks. Thank you once again to all the judges, teachers, participants, and audience present for your undivided attention in this session. We really appreciate you all for taking the time out to be with us here today. Now, I am sure all of you are starting to feel tired after all those presentations. Is that right, Hannah?
Yep, I can practically hear my stomach grumbling.
Me too, and I think the audience feels the same. Fret not, as we will be having a break before our final session. But be sure to come back at 2 p.m. as our next session will resume then.
Before you go, don't forget to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Please be informed that there will be a new link for the next session. Hopefully none of you will be lost, so make sure to be alert for any updates. Catch you in a bit. See you later.